Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to pick up from the top of Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. In Yetz Hashem, we're going to get to the end of the Perek towards Lamed Tes Amud Beis. Zok the Gemara, Dinim and Moinis Machzir, and we said in the Mishnah when it comes to Dinim and Moinis, we could go from Machzir and Leschos Lechayva. V'chulei. Frek the Gemara, Aminu, we have already a Mishnah Becharis that says as follows: Donis Adin, Zika Sachayev, Chayev is a Zakai. In all those cases where a dying already paskin, whether he was Mezaka, the person who Be'etzim should have been Chayev, or he said to the person who's Pater your Chayev, or Timis et Tahar, there was a mistake. Be'etzim he said that this chicken, for example, is a treif, even though it's kosher, or Tiras et Tami. Masha Asu Asu. We should underline those words. Look, Rashi, you see from there that whatever happened, happened, and therefore he cannot retract. V'yishalim mi beisai. And over there you clearly see that a person cannot be chayzer. So how in the world are we saying that by us, dinim and minus, we are machzer from schus l'chayva? And that the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Yosef, like kasha. Kan b'mumche, kan b'shein mumche. When there's a mumche involved, there's a koyach lach, so you can retract in it, and we don't tell him, oh, maybe you're making a mistake this time around. Rather, the mumche changes it. Mashenka, when there's no mumche, kataina, how do you know that your second ruling is really accurate, maybe your first ruling, etc.? Fracting Mar, is this really true that by mumche, you tell me whenever there's a mumche, we are machzir in vaktani, ya mumche lebezdin, patilish milashali. And we clearly see that you're pater. In such a case, alma yinachayzam, Rav Nachman kanshi ish gadol emenu bechachma ubeminyan. When there's a person who's more gadol emenu with chachma and a minyan, there's a shayla. What minyan means, talmidim age, it's a big shayla. But the point is, whenever there's someone who's more greater than your machzirin kan, she'en gadol emenu bechachma minyan, that's when you're not going to retract. Rav Sheshes Amar, Rav Sheshes is going to say a different answer. Kan chetabit var mishnah. You know when he could be chayzer? When he made such an explicit such a mistake that it's explicit against a mishnah. Kan chetah b'shikol adas, and the Gemara in a moment is going to explain what shikol adas means. The Amar Rav Sheshes Amar Rav Asi, tabit var mishnah, chayzer. Tah b'shikol adas ain't a chayzer. If you made a mistake, even though it's meferish a mishnah somewhere, then you have no choice but to retract. Amar Rabbeinu Rav Ashi, hafilu tah b'rachiyav Rav Aishia. So he asks him, even in Sanhedrin of Rav Aishia, and Rashi's masber, that's only a tesefta. Even in such a case, are you chayzer? Amar in, yes. And then he says, hafilu b'derav Shmuel, which is only svara zakt Rashi, not even mishnayis. He says, yes, Amalei in. Afilu b'didi b'didach. What about me and you? He asks him, Ravina to Rav Ashi. So he answers, Amalei, atu anan, katli kani ba'agmanan. Are we chevra that Rashi's master that cut the reeds? And are we chevra that just cut the weeds and malak the eitzim and gather wood in the swamp? Well, why are you knocking us down? Therefore, in a chanami, he's basically trying to say is that you could be chayzer even against us, like Ravina and Rav Ashi. So hechi dami shikol adas. We're explaining what shikol adas. What is shikol adas that we're saying they cannot be chayzer? Amar Papa can go and trade tonight. You have two tanoim a trem right the pliga dadi. V'layet mehilchos alay kamar v'lekamar. There's no clear explicit halacha. However, the ikri v'avid kachamina. You went like somebody. You went like one of the tanoim. However, v'sugya deshmaitza azlina kiidach. Right with the people we all know. We go like Rav, whatever that Tana, whatever that Meir is. That's hainu shikol adas. In such a case, the halacha is you cannot be chayzer. There was a Maisa that what happened? They took off, they took out the womb like that. The animals cannot continue to give birth. And he fed it to the dogs. And the reason why he said that you could feed it to the dogs, he held it was a treifa. It's not going to live. And they said no. In such a case, the halacha is, in such a case, it is not considered a treifa. Why? Sha'amar. He was the doctor. He says, no. These were excellent even today. We have that with horses, the championship horses, that you want to make sure it's not going to breed and lose value. What you do is they prevent it from being able to breed. But avada, it's not going to be a treifa. Amar of Tarfin. He's talking to himself, says, oh, there goes my donkey. I'm going to have to sell it, because I'm going to have to pay it back. So Amalei Rekiva, no, Pater Ata, why? Shekol Mumcha L'Rabim Pater Milashal. That's what he tells him. He says, you're a Mumcha, therefore you're Pater. Now, this is the Gemara's question. V'im Isa, Le'melei, Toyib B'Dvar Mishnah Ata, V'Toyib B'Dvar Mishnah Chayzer, Dahainu Rashi's Master, the Etzim, there's a Meferish Mishnah in Chulun Nun Dalet, that says, Ksheira. So he's going against the Meferish Mishnah. So why didn't he say that? And that the Gemara answers, Chada V'Oid Kamer. That there's 2 points he's bringing out. Chada, first of all, the Toyib B'Dvar Mishnah Ata. Because like Rashi's masber, because of the Mishnah and Chulin. V'oid inami b'shikol das tois. You're going to say you made a mistake with shikol das. Forget about that Mishnah. Still, mumcha l'rabim mata v'chola mumcha l'rabim patim l'sham. Okay, Zok Mar Vayter Rav Nachman Yitzchak l'Rava. Ma'ika ma'isiv Rav Nuna l'Rav Sheshes mipara. What's he trying to ask? He's trying to bring a case of para that what? He gave it to the dog. So how do we understand the para is gone, right? He fed it to the dogs. So frak Mar para echil l'klavim. There's nothing to come back. There's no chayzer. It's gone. So hachi kamele. This is where Abunos telling Sheshes. Okay, then we can understand. Amakam dina. It is what it is. And Hainu the kamafchid Rav Tarfon, he was afraid. He's saying that's you should be chayv because you fed it to the dogs, but you are a mumcha. And a mumcha is potter. Why can he tell him? Kivan the ilu have a para if be'etzem there would have been a para. Dinoch lav dino veloy klum avata hashtenami loy klum avata. The hainu is a very big chiddush, but the point is that since all he did was give a psak, and who fed it to the dogs? You have to read it. Techila klavim was not be a dime. Rashi says be'etzem it was just like grama. Grama ben Izak is potter. I caused you maybe to feed it to the dogs, but since he didn't be a dime, and since my halacha is not my halacha, it ended up being that you threw it to the dogs based on my psak, but that psak is only a grama, and therefore I am not chayv. Rav Chizda Amar, Rav Chizda is going to answer the Mishnah Becharis from the top over there and be masber as follows. Kan shenotel v'nosaviyat. The case of the Mishnah Becharis is where you yourself did it in your hands and gave it to the person. That's when you cannot be chayzer. Masha'enkin kan, our Mishnah shaloi notel v'nosaviyat. In our Mishnah, we did not do that. You didn't do it be a dime. So Zaktamar Bishma Chayiv says Zakai. Okay, so what's the case? You're Mechayiv the person that's be'etzim potter. We understand Kigoin shenotel v'nosaviyat. What is the case? How could you do something with Ayim by saying that what? You're telling me that what? You were mezaka the chayev. All he did is potter. He should have paid you $1,000 and now he doesn't. So the Amalei potter ato. But just saying potter, the only case you can understand is the Amalei potter. You bet some $1,000, no, you're potter. So you didn't do anything with Ayim. My answer is fascinating. Kivadam a potter ato. It's like by you saying potter, it's mamash like doing be a dime. Elo masnisin diktani dina mamaynos machzirin. So our Mishnah that says by mamaynos you are machzirin bein l'schos bein l'chayva. So bishul l'schos we can understand. Mashkachas loy the amalei mikara chayva. The beginning you be'etzim chayva. Lo not lo nasaviyat. El l'chayva. What is the case that you can suddenly be obligating? Heichem mashkachas loy. What? The amalei potter ato. Well, you just said potters be a dime. Then you're back to square one. Our Mishnah is considered that you did be a dime. If you did be a dime, you cannot be chayzer. And you shouldn't be able to chayzer. We know our Mishnah, you could be chayzer. My answer is no. Chadaktani. That's him right. We're not even talking about such a case. Rather, dinim ma'maynich machzir l'schos, which is a chayva to who? Shehi l'chayva. If you think about it, there's two people in the picture by dinim ma'maynich. There's Reuven and Shimon. By you saying Reuven's schos, you're really being a chayva to the other party. So, frak the Gemara, the kavasa. Then we're going to have to compare dinim ma'maynich to dinim nefashis. The kavasa gab nefashis, machzir l'schos. Ve'ein one lamed gimel lamed beis. Ve'ein machzir l'chayva. So what's the case? Machzir, frak mar machzir l'schos. Schos, we can understand redusa. There's no one else involved. Ve'ein machzir l'chayva l'schoshi chayva. Oh, so we're talking about bandin and afashis. L'schos, schos redusa. It's very fair, no problem. You be'etzem are obligated misa, but we acquitted you. So Adarabba, it's great. There's no baldin. Rashi's mazrich chol Shabbos, eishes ish. The problem becomes how you comparing. When we're comparing the din of faishis, we said just like by din of mamaynos, it's a schoshi chayva. Where's the chayva by in a scenario of nefashis? Chayvasa deman. Who's the other party? Frak the Gemara. My answer is like kasha chayvasa the goyal adam. That what? It's emotional pain when your murder gets away in prison. Even today, someone Rahman Islam murders a family member and he gets away with it. There's tremendous pain. Shekasha be'einav shezenitza. More than that, ba'etzim goyal adam can redeem him. But even on a lower level in 2025, it's still painful. Frak the Gemara. Bishop chayvasa the goyal adam because you feel bad for him. Katlin and late. So what? He was ba'etzim supposed to be acquitted. But no, now we're going to kill him because the other party feels bad. That doesn't make sense. If you look in the Mishnah, it clearly says Bain l'schos, bain l'chayva. What's the double lashon? Bain, elamite sounds like two separate things. And then the Gemara says, no, kasha. The might say it's a kasha, but it's not a tiyuft. Ravina wants to say that's an easier case. No, we're talking about where it's biyadayim. So even though it's a be'etzem, it's only chus and chayva. If you do biyadayim, take away the mashkin, that's considered biyadayim. And tima satar, that case would be the agbi sheretz. He mamish did a biyadayim, the sheretz the daim. And tir satame she'irvan bein peiraisaf. He mamish took peirais that are tahar and he put it into a bucket full of tummy produce. Therefore, he did a ma'aseh biyadayim. Dine nefashis v'chulei. Taner Rabbanan. Now we're going to continue discussing with all the things we mentioned in the Mishnah regarding dine nefashis. Taner Rabbanan minayin liyotze lebezdin mi bezdin chayev. V'ama echad yesh l'lamed olav schos. The halach is v'ama yesh l'lamed schos minayin shemechzir noitze. So basically, he was on the way to get killed, and the guy says, "You know what? I have a thing I think that could acquit him." Tamalayim says in the pasuk, "Naki v'tzadik al targ," and we're playing over here, "Naki al taroik," even though he's naki min achet, right? Even though he's Chai Misa, we're saying, wait, he might be Naki Min Achet. And therefore, what? Al Ta'aroik. Rather, schlep him back to Bezdin. The other way around, if he got acquitted, it's it. Tzaddik. Even that what Tzaddik Zok Rashi and it's Tzaddik, but then, Bezdin Paskin, he's a Tzaddik, Al Ta'aroik, even though he's not a Naki. Omar, Rav Simi Bar Rashi, v'chelufa, the opposite happens, Lamesis, someone who instigates someone to do it by the Zara. We already learned this in the Psukim. You don't have pity on him and you don't cover for him. Rather, Adarabba, we want you to get killed. Rav Kana Maskeh Michi Harag, Targenu, the double lashon of killing him. We're going to say that even in a scenario we should think to be down the schos, we are going to kill him. What about what is the halacha of chayiv golius? Do you look at it as kedina nefashis or not? On that, the more answers asur ritzeach ritzeach. It says by Golos, you must ritzeach, and it says also, it says by Misa, sorry, you must ritzeach, and it says by Golos, Lanus shama ritzeach. Okay, chayiv malchus minay. What about malchus? Is it considered nefashis? Asya, Russia says by nefashis, asya Russia lamus, and it says by malchus, v'haya in ben hakois a Russia. Tani namiachi chayiv Golos minay asur ritzeach ritzeach, chayiv malchus minay asur Russia. The ain machzir l'chayva. We do not bring a person back l'chayva by dinin nefashis. Amar B'chia B'Rabba M'yachananu Hu Sheta B'Davar She'ena Tzedukim Maidim. It has to be that something that's debatable, but something that even Tzedukim Maidim says in the entire black and white. There's nothing to do about it, and avada we have to kill him. Avatar B'Davar She'Tzedukim Maidim Zilkar Be'Ravu. Go learn this in school. You know, this is something that's so obvious you can't get away with it. What is the halacha if someone made a mistake regarding znus? So Amalei, he says, the moitcha yakid, while your fire is burning zil kites, krach v'tzali, go roast your gourds. He's trying to say is, what's your havmin? This is something that's mefersh in the Torah. Noiv and efes, ma'isumas. What do you want from this? What type of silly question he asks? It's manami amar Rav Yechon Tabanayv chayser. So what's the case? What would be a shaila of ein chayzer? And Rashi's mazbeh the scenario of shatosh shalei kedarka. We only know the Yechayev zok Rashi. But etzem rabbanon, I'm going to learn this in Hey, mishka ve'isha. There are two types of mishkavas. One's kedarka, one's shalei kedarka. So therefore, that's something that tzedukim are not so clear about. Dinim amaynis hakov v'chuli. We said that talmidim can speak up. However, by dinim nefashis, talmidim have to stay quiet. Even the Eidim can suddenly speak up. Name Masnisa Rav Yehuda Spitz, the Tanya, the Eid Echad, Lo Yanim and Efesh. One Eid should not speak for a soul. Bein l'schos, bein l'chayva. Rav Yehuda Aimer, Oine l'schos, ve'ein oine l'chayva. And so what's the problem? Let it be Rav Yehuda. The problem is Rav Yehuda is a Yechidai. He's a Yachid. Doesn't make sense that we hold like him. Amar Papa, you know what we're talking about? Echad min hatalmidim. We're not talking about the Eidim. Rather, it's mechad min hatalmidim v'divrei hakol. So my time with the Rabbi Yehuda one lamadal and Alf. What's Scheiner Rabbi Yehuda Damakra? Eid echad lo yane benefesh lomus. You should underline dafka when it says lomus to tell us lomus hu dein eine. Avelischos, you could be eine. Rabbanan, what's Rabbanan going to hold? Ameshlakashum the Mexican agabi do say. Let's be real. You can't be chayzi eidus. You know you messed up. You give eidus that the guy's going to die, so you can't come back in the next day and say change your eidus. You know what you're going to do? You're going to start giving tirutzim why your eidus is not good. Oh, this really happened. I'm thinking now, etc., etc. It looks like you're just trying to be chayzer magid. We know kivin sheheged shuvin chayzer magid. Rabbanan, what are they going to do with lamos? We'll make a good diak. Rabbi Yehuda, lamus dafka, but schos hayna. Rabbanan, hay lamus my dashibe. Mukmilei be'echem min tamidem. We're talking about Enechanam, we're not talking about the Eidim. Rather, one of the Talmidim, Kedetanya, remember, Echel min Eidim Yeshlam Elav Schos, Minayin Shein Shem Eloi Tam Eloi Mar, Dechel Yan. However, Minayin Le'echel min Talmidim Shami Yeshlam Edalav Chayva Minayin Shein Shem Eloi Minayin. Oh, sorry, Shami Yeshlam Elav Chayva Minayin Shein Shem Eloi Tam Eloi Mar, Echel Yanim and Efesh Lamos. Therefore, he's able to be. We're not going to listen to him when he wants to say. Dinei nefashois hamelamed schos cannot be melamed chayv. Amar Papa, that's Dafka. Amar Rav, sorry, lo shana b'shas masamata. That's when we're debating back and forth. You can't change your opinion. Av b'shas gmar din lamaisa comes for the final vote. In Echanami, you were trying to quit him for the past few weeks, but now there's a final vote of whether you could convict him. That's what you have to do. That's what you hold. Av b'shas gmar din melamed schos melamed chayv. The next day, the following day, what do we do? We get up in the morning. What's this guy who said that he wants to quit? And the and what right here? Underline this. Now, that's what we're understanding. That's the kasha. More answers no. The taimech the macharas is what masamaton mi leko. It's back to square one. The wahanin only when they're debating it. But about the real gmar din, you can retract and say what you really hold, which is to convict. Tashma. Don in elu keneged elu. The dayanim debating each other. Achir echem and echayvin. Divrem izakin. Until one of the Mechayivim flipped their vote back to Schus. Now, for Ekdamaravim, he said that what? That you could be Chayzer from Schus l'Chayva, listening Nami Yevcha. Our answers, you're right. Be'etzem hu adin Nami Yevcha. However, Tana Schus Kamahada, Chayva like Kamahada. We don't want to go that direction. But Rashi's Masber, the Meferish, hu adin Yevcha. Tashma Adam Rav Yehuda Bechanina Echem and Tamidim Shezika. Umeis. We know the Talmud said yesterday he was planning on quitting, and we're going to count him as a vote. Next thing you know, you hear he didn't wake up in the morning. The halacha is right. And we count his vote. What do you mean? Maybe he would have retracted. The next morning he might have convicted. Our answer is we keep it status quo. And yesterday he said that he's going to acquit. So what? We're schlepping Rabbi Yossi. They sent a letter from Eretz. It sounds like, according to Rabbi Yossi Bechanina, it sounds like that the Rabbanan argued, that Rav is arguing. Our answer is no, don't read it like that. Rabbi Yossi Bechanina is not arguing with Rav, and therefore we can bring it as a Rav. Tashmash, you have two seifrim. You have a seifr on the right, a small guy on the left, they write whatever the person wants to quit. So Bishra V'Divra Mechayv, and the person yesterday says he wants a what? He wants to convict. Lamachar, he looks at his things, he looks at his slurs. He says, you know what? We can understand. The halach is we're going to learn in order to convict, you must sleep it over. El L'Divra Mezakin, my time, Lamashum, isn't the pshat is, then we're not going to be gars you, so you see you can't be chayzer. My answer is loy. You know why? It can be that two dayanim are coming from one pasuk. Why? So what's the case we're going to see? The halacha is if two people are coming from one pasuk, we know. The one halacha from two different psukim, we know that one of them is definitely making a tos, because we don't need such a case. There's no such thing in the Torah for one halacha from two different psukim. So minan immediately. Now we're going to go through it. Where do we see this type of concept? You can have what? One halacha from two different psukim. Says in the pasuk, Achaz diber lekim. However, shtayim zu shemati. Ki ois, the strength of lekim. Mikra echad yaitz lekam etamim. The ein tam echad yaitz mikam mikrois. You can have one pasuk saying a bunch of tamim. Diber small tana, like it says in the pasuk, ukapatish, like a hammer. You fight the seller. Rashi Mamish last week's parsha brought it down a pasuk get out of beginning of the parsha. This Mamish this pasuk. Ukapatish, the hammer. You fight the seller. Ma patish that. Mischal like lekamini tzaitis makes a few. Tzaitis a mikra echad yaitz lekamitam. So hey chidami, where's the case tam echad mishnei mikrais? Where do we have one shot from two different psukim? Rav Zeka the Tanana says mizbeach mikdash mikadesh is a royaloi. That the mizbeach is mikadesh whatever is royaloi. And Rabbi Shua Aimer, Kol haroyli ishim, im Allah once it goes up, lo yeriloi. Shenama oila, al maikta, ma oila shiruli ishim, anything that's roy for fire, im also le seirit, af kol shu royli ishim, im Allah lo yerit. You don't go. It doesn't go off the mizbech. No, color the mizbech. He's coming from a different pasuk. She'namar. He's coming from the pasuk. He's coming from somewhere else. Al hamizbech. Underline. He's learning that from the mizbech. The what? Ma oila she really got mizbech. I'm also leiseired. Just like the oila once it goes to mizbech, you don't take it off. Af kolshu. If it's royal mizbech, im Allah layerid. If tavai makamar. But what are they coming to be marba? That what's on the mizbech? You're not going to remove it. Psul it. However, mar ma'isilam in Maikta, mar ma'isilam mizbeach. Just a shayla where they're learning it from. And Leo's going to learn it from the mizbeach, and Yeshua's going to learn it from what? From Maikta. What's the chilik? They're both, and you see clear there. V'hasam, mar ma'isilam mizbeach. So you see that what we're learning from two psukim, one concept. Moran says no. V'hasam iflik pligi diktani seifa. The promise of the seifa ain't been different when Leo different Yeshua dam v'nisachim. What's the chilik of dam and the nisachim? That if it's possible, lo yerit, it's right to mizbeach, but it's not right leishim. Shem gilei loimer lo yerdu. Shem naimer yerdu. Elamar Papa going to have to find a different car. Because the Tanya Rabbi Yisrael gilei loimer mitoich shenemar wan lamedalan amebeis. Kol hanegeya, which means afilu psulim b'mizbeach. Kol hanegeya b'mizbeach yigdash. Shemei ani I would hear bein roi, bein sheini roi. Tamalayma that it says kvasim. Right near that it says right near the psukim it says kvasim. V'zeh asher tasal mizbeach kvasim neishana. Ma kvasim ru'uyin. Anything that's roy of kol roy. Kiva imer oila. Ma oila is coming from the pasuk of oilas tamim. Ma oila ru'uy of kol roy. With tavai ma kamat, the same concept. Suli. Mar ma'isilam ikvasim. Umar ma'isilam oila. Kiva is coming from oila. V'amer avada barava. No, oilas oy psula ikabenai. Man the ma'isilam ikvasim dafka kvasim in ava oilas oif loy. Uman the ma'isilam oila. Then we know if you oilas oif nam. So we're back to square one. Then we have to find two psukim for one concept. Alam Rabashi get the Tanya. Says in the pasuk, Dam yechashiv la'ishahu. That what? Dam shavach l'rabas is a zayrik. To tell us this is talking about someone who's doing this. Kachim b'chutz, he's going to get kares. And we learn it from Dam shafach. And this is talking about parshas of shchutei chutz. L'rabas is a zayrik. Even if a person is zayrik, to be Rabbi Shmuel, that's shittas Rabbi Shmuel. Kiva Aimer, it says in the pasuk, Oi! Zavach, towards the end of the pasuk, the rabbis is a zayrik. So they both have the same type of concept that someone who's zayrik, mechutz, is going to be chayiv kares, but they're coming from different sukkim. V'tavai makamar buzrika. Mar ma'isilam midam yichashiv. Umar, Rabbi Kiva is going to learn it from what? Ma'isilam ma'i zavach. And that Rabbi says, no, shachat v'zarak ika b'nai. When you did two ma'isim, did shchita and zrika b'chutz. L'div Rabbi Shmuel ain't a chayiv l'achas. However, l'div Rabbi Kiva, you're going to be chayiv shtayim. And the Gemara answers, no. Itmar law. Amar Abai, even according to Rekiva, after the Rekiva, Nami Nechav Lachas. Why? Damakra Sham Tala Elisechav Sham Tasar Vina Rachmana Lakula Asiyos. That what? Even in Echanami, you're right. There are two different creases, but it all boils down to what? To the Hazara, and we only have one Hazara. Therefore, you're only going to be Chayiv one. Zok Tehele Gemara Vaiter Dinam Amaynes done in Bayoim Ubalayl. And we all know, however, Din and Afashis, we could only do it Dafka at B'yom and not b'layla. Simin mishpat ma'ane mat. Okay. Where do we know this concept that what the dinam amoin is done b'yom b'layla? Amir chiyah by Papa Damakra says in the pasuk, v'shav t'sham, you should judge the nation. B'choleis. What's b'choleis coming to tell you? L'chayra afilu b'layla, even at night. Fraktamari hachi tchilas din nami should also be b'layla. Why dafka goymer b'layla? The whole din should be b'layla. The Rava Ramik Our answers, Rava had a steer in the psukim. Says in the pasuk v'shav t'sham b'choleis, which you would think 24/7. If we mention this in Yesh Neichel, by the day you give over the Rusha, I'm going to talk about this in the bottom of the Amid. Okay, it's on the bottom of the Daf. Okay, it's that what? Yoim is the Tchilas din, and Laila Likmar din. So Aktimar Masnistin Loikar Mer. Why? The Tanya Me'ayim Matam. Why does it say in the Pasuk al PM? Yeah, Kol Riv, V'chol Nega. And the master should have Kol Riv. Riv, we're understanding is what? Monetary arguments, which is Dinei, Mamaynos. V'chol Nega, we know it's Saras. Why are we connecting the Bezdin a moment etzel Nagan to Tzaras Ella Makish Ribin Linigan? Nigan we know Beyoin. It has to be Dafka, the Kohen could only look at it during the day. Dichsev Ubeyoin. Erois boy, you should only look at it during the day. After Ribim, even Dinam and mine is Beyoin. Umanigoim Shaloi Besumim. A Nega Kohen that's blind cannot look at a Nega. Dichsev Lechom Mare. Ain't a koyin. He has to be able to see it. So afribim shaloi b'sumin. Makish negoyle ribim. Ribim shaloi b'kravim. It has to be. We know by dinim and minus. We learned this. You can't go to your father. V'chulei. Af negoyim shaloi b'kravim. You can't go to your koyin who's your father. Imai ribim b'shleisha. Frek demara. We know by dinim and minus is b'shleisha. Af negoyim b'shleisha. Then we should also say b'tzaras you need three. V'dinu memayim b'shleisha. Gufa like kol shekin. It should make even more sense. Tamalayma v'huval aren hakoyin oyel echad. The Gaimer clearly says in the pasuk, you go only to Oyal Acham Ibanav HaKayanim. You only have to go to one of the Kahanim and he can paskin. Halamata Shafilu Kain Echad Royas Negoim. Okay, very good shmak. Therefore, we know comes that we are learning it to Tzuras a lot in the Goyim. However, there's a meferish explicit pasuk that tells us one koyin lafuke dinam aminus is b'shleish. Zaktik mar weiter. The who sami. There's a person who was blind. The hava b'shavusa der Rabbi Yechanan. He was in the neighborhood of Rabbi Yechanan. David doin dinam b'lei amalei Rabbi Yechanan b'lei Rabbi Yechanan was quiet. So for the Mara, hechi avid hachi. How could that be there? Rabbi Yechanan was quiet. Rabbi Yechanan lachkas ta mishnah. Vitnan we learned kol kashalad and kashalayit. V'yesha kashalayit v'en kashalad and Rabbi Yechanan asui suma b'achis meinov. So how in the world do we understand that this person who's blind can continue to paskin? The Mara answers, Rabbi Yechanan stam achrita ashkach. He had another mishnah that was like a stam. It said that what? Dinam amayna is done b'yam v'goymi b'layla. So fraktig Gemara, my ome, the high stam. Why is he picking one stam mishnah over another stam mishnah? Nothing more answers. Two terutzim. Iba sema stam de rabim adif. Iba sema, you know why? Mishum de ktanila gabe hilchas of the dina. It makes more sense to follow that mishnah where it talks about more of a halachic status. It's more clear that we're referring to halachas. Rav Meir, fraktig Gemara going back. Rav Meir, hayvashat tazam b'chol eis my darsh. According to Rav Meir, what's going to learn? B'chol eis. Amarav alasu yamim oni. He's coming to tell us on a cloudy day. Ditnan. What's the shaila about a cloudy day? It says ein reinus and a goyim you're not allowed to look at saras by shachris ubein abayim during the afternoon hours. V'lei b'teicha bayis, and not in your house. V'lei b'yamim onon, and not during a cloudy day. You know why? Mipnei shekeya nearest azov. If something's dull and it's not the right lighting, it looks much more brighter than what it really is. V'lei b'tzarayim, and not in the afternoon where it's strong sun. Mipnei she'azov, the bright's nearest cheya because you're putting such strong light on it. Fraktig Mara, okay, very nice. But Meir, hi b'yamim chilas as banav. What's he going to do with the pasuk b'yamim chilas banav? Our answer is humivoy lechedetani. Rabbi Rachanina come here to Menachem. B'haya b'yamim chilas banav b'yamim atamapa nachlois dafka during the day. That doesn't make sense. A person, we're understanding Muskarisha what? When the guy dies, Yerusha could only kick in if he dies during the day, but if he dies at night, there's no Yerusha. You have to make sure the guy dies during the day, but if he dies in the night hours, that makes zero sense. Maybe what he's trying to really say is the halachos of nachlos. The what? The Tanya of a haisel the neisol the chukas mishpat. Ayrakol a parsha kula liyos din. That the way we look at it is Yerusha, it's going to be a psak din keder Rav Yehuda Merav Rav Rav. Three people, we learned this Gemara Reg Geshmak, Shloisha shenichnasu levaker esachayla. Three people, they're not dayanim, they go visit the chayla. And the chayla says, I want to go over in my Yerusha to XYZ. Ratzu kaisvin. They want to write it. Just like Eidim, but since they're three people, Ratzu Sidin. However, if it's Shnayim, so they're not a bezdin, then Kaisin, Ve'ina Sidin. V'amar Rav Chizda, when could you, these three people, make this as a din? L'shana l'biyayim avalayla. You have no choice. Dafka kaisvin. Ve'ina Sidin. Mishum da'havelu Eidim. Ve'ain Eid nasidain. Amalei, yes. In Hachi Kamina, that's exactly what I wanted to say, that I'm only referring to what? The halachas of Yerusha as Dayanim. Dafka v'haya b'yayim, that your mamash like a bezdin can only be done during the day hours. Dinin nefasha is done in b'yayim. We all know dafka during the day, but not during the night v'chulei. Minad emila, where do we know this? So it says in the pasuk, interesting. Pasuk nun. They bring down over here nun. V'haika oisam l'Hashem neged Hashemesh, and he hanged them against the sun. So that what? Dafka neged Hashemesh. We're going to see Haika. How do we know that means the lashon hanging? But it means neged Hashemesh means dafka during the day hours. How do we know that Haika, the lashon Haika, means hanging? Dichsev says in the pasuk, v'hoikanum la'Hashem begiva Shul. That's talking about hanging the sons of Shul, and he hanged them begiva Shul bechir Hashem. Uchsev, and it says in the pasuk, v'tikach ritzba one lamed hey amad aleph v'tikach ritzba bas ayah. Sasak, she takes her sackcloth. V'atetei la latzur, she spreads it out over the rock. B'tchilas katzer, until when? Antin tachmayim alayim. If you look at the psukim towards the sefer pasuk, the concept is to make sure no animals ended up eating the sons of Shul, because he left them to hang. And Rashi brings down, what do you mean? How do we understand that? We all know when a person gets executed, we hang him on the tree. We don't let him sitting over there. So it sounds like over there that the bodies were sitting there, and she had to protect to make sure the birds don't eat the body. And that Rashi says, Adarabah. Motov ti'akar is aches b'tayra, and we should be makadashim shemayim for Asir to say. Even the sons of Shaul, Still, Mativin Shalei, ask who are these people? No, these are Bnei Malachim. And look what happened. They ended up taking the wrong people, and they ended up getting punished for it. Uchsev, another passage, Yom Hashem Moshe Kachas Kol Roshei Ha'am. Moshe Rabbeinu says you should take the whole entire Roshei Ha'am. V'haika Isa Hashem. I'm reading the end of the passage to understand the Gemara's kash. You should hang them neged Hashemesh. And then Rabban Shalom is going to calm down. If the nation did hate, Roshei Ha'am, what did they do wrong? Right? Why? We're understanding that they themselves get hanged. Spread out. You should have multiple courts. My time. Why do you need multiple? The halacha is one bezin does not execute two people in one day. That's dafka what? One's for skila, one's for chenek. There's too much going on, and we're afraid that the yana might make a mistake. It makes a little sense. If it's all the same, everyone's really getting executed together in a sense. Done it. You know why? We're punishing so many people. But Rabban Shalom is going to calm down when he goes through, he sees, yeah, this Bezdin's killing people, doing the right thing. We're executing the Rishayim. And like that, the Rabban Shalom, Kaviyachol, calms down. We know this. It says in the Pasuk, Mila'esi Mishpat Tzedek Yolimba Ve'ata Miratzchim. It's talking about from Yerushalayim that what? Mila'esi Mishpat should be full of judgment. Tzedek Yolimba. This is what we're really underlining these words. That the Tzedek, regarding the Tzedek, you should keep it overnight kilu. But now Zakt Rashi, Mitchilo Zakt Rashi, what? Someone who was paskin to get killed, they were do Yolin. But now that they don't do Yolin, V'ata Meratzchim. Now they're turned into murderers because they don't do it overnight. V'Rav Amahachah says in the Pasuk, Ashru chametz shiftu am. The what? Ashru dayin shemechametz is dina. Loshe chametz. You know, you give it time. So too, he lets it sink in and give it overnight. V'idach. What's Scheiner going to say? Ashru chametz v'loy chametz. Person is the person who's theft and not the thief. The hainu Rashi's masber. Then in scenario, if someone's complaining that he owes him money and he says, "I have the mashkin, I don't want to give it back." First, wait a second. First, let's handle. Don't start taking stuff and saying he owes me money. First, let's clearly give it back because you agree you have to give it back. Now you want to have a shaylam bezdin. He owes you money. We'll deal with it. Don't start mixing the two. V'idach. Hi, Melesi Mishpat. What is going to do with the pasuk Melesi Mishpat? Should be full of judgment. My overlay. My answer is call tinus after a fast. Shemelina buys at stock. Now in those days, the Aniyim would rely on breaking the fast by going to the Shul. They give out cookies and cake. Kilo shevich dam, and they want to say, no, we'll give it tomorrow. Why? Because possible a person could die from hunger. Shenemer melesi mishpat b'tzadik. Goyimer v'hani mili berifta v'tami. You're giving out dates and bread, real stuff that they're going to eat immediately. Avo bezuzi, if after the fast they give you money or chiti v'sari, less lamba, because nothing's going to change by a mitzvah tinus. Either way, you're going to have to go in a later time and eat it. So you're not going to rely on that money to survive that night. Lefikach in danim v'chulav erev Shabbos. We said a person does not don on erev Shabbos. Why? Because we learned. We're going to go talk about this extensively because you're not going to be able to kill him. My time. You know why? Mishum delay afshar. Hey chilavet. How can you do it? Le danim b'mal Shabbos. What do you want to do? You want to finish the din on what? On erev Shabbos. Ligmir le danim b'mal Shabbos. That can happen. The Paskin on Friday. What happens if it's chayva? Dil machazut tam lechayva. Uboy lemeved alon his din. So you're going to have to wait overnight. Maybe Paskin on Friday. Because we're going to learn that person has to get executed immediately after the judgment. We don't do that. It's painful to the person. We immediately kill him. And we're going to learn this now. We're going to go through all the kavachayimers, but we don't execute on Shabbos. Kill him mitzvah Shabbos. No. Well, that's the problem. Neged Hashemesh binan. You have to kill him during the day. Okay, so maybe kill him on Sunday. Paskin on Friday and kill him on Sunday. No. We know that you don't cause unnecessary pain to a yid, even though he's getting executed. Okay, Paskin and Erev Shabbos and say we're going to make our final decision on Sunday. And Shabbos, other rabbis going to be diving to the Rebbeinu Shalom to save us. Maybe the Dayanim will find a heter. Right? And it's not tsar. Our answer is minshu tamai. They're going to forget the svaras they had on Friday. I forgot. The Gemara is bringing out a point. Even though there's shnei sefer dayanim anil fnei v'kaisin, so what's the big deal? You'll read it. Divim mazakin dimachayim. Nehid bepuma kasim. You're right. Yes, I said chayiv. However, liba the inchi hilkach le'afshar. A person, what was going on through his mind? Not necessarily he's going to remember what he had. Really, what is deep svaras to paskin towards one direction on the last week. Therefore, we have no choice, and we cannot kill a person. We cannot paskin on Erev Shabbos. really also Erev Yom Tov. Amalei Rabbi Shlakish Rabbi Yochanan. Now we're going to handle, we said Ritzicha ain't a Deiches Shabbos. Amalei Rabbi Shlakish Rabbi Yochanan v'tehei kvuras meis mitzvah Deiches Shabbos mikavachayim. We're going to go through a kvuras meis mitzvah. We're going to see that even Kahanim, Kengdadol, everyone's going to go for a meis mitzvah. But a meis mitzvah, we all know, we're not Deiches Shabbos. Why? So what's the kavachayim that should be Deiches? Ma havoida she Deiches Shabbos. We know you give a carbon tabin. We say this every Musaf, right? So you end up doing certain karbanos on Shabbos, bekvuras meis mitzvah, doicha oisa. And the halach is, even someone who's going to the avodah, he's going to do a meis mitzvah. How do we know this? We're talking about a nazir. It says al nefesh meis lo yavai, and the next psukim say and each one Rashi goes and brings sifris for each one to show you dafka la'aviv for certain scenarios to tell us meis mitzvah that's mutter. What's imai? We already know meis mitzvah to tell us that if he's a nazir koyin, and then we go through it la'achiv if he's a koyin gadol. And then we said where the last one is la chaysa. Why do you need to come tell us la chaysa? To tell us even a kohen gadol and nazir and he's going to shecht. Here's Pesach. He's going to do the avodah. He should stop and bury the meis mitzvah. La chaysa matam l'mei reisha lich shchait this Pesach v'lamulis benai. We're on lamed hamid beis v'shamani here shemeis lameis yachol yitami is krayvim mishigovim matayim amarta lo yitami yachol kshenim matayim la chaysa kachenim matayim la meis mitzvah maybe also meis mitzvah tam leimar v'la chaysa the extra riba la chaysa deinem matayim av matayim la meis mitzvah. Correcting Mara Shabbos. So this is part of the question. Shabbos we know shenitches b'nei avodah. The kohen does karbanos on Shabbos. Ain't a din should take kvuras meis mitzvah deichaisa. Amalei ritzicha techiach. We know you don't execute on Shabbos. Why? Should deichas avodah. Ve'ain a deichas Shabbos. Ritzicha. We're going to learn that even if a kohen gadol is about to go, he's on the way towards the avodah. He's not mamash doing the avodah. They bring that if he's mamash on the mizbech already, we don't pull him away. But he's on the way to do his avodah. We still kill him. Vein deiches Shabbos. Ritzicha gufa titches Shabbos mikavachayim. Ma avodah shedeiches Shabbos. Ritzicha will pull you away deiches shenema from your mizbech, mizbechi from the other mizbech. Tikchen alamos, you're going to kill him. So Shabbos shenitches b'nei avodah and then shedei ritzicha deiches. Amirava kvar. Paska Tana de Be'er Shmuel. The Tana de Be'er Shmuel leisivaru eish. Says in the pasuk. We already know the lamates malachos. And then it says leisivaru eish. Matam alayma. So tomorrow, what do you mean matam alayma? It's nothing to do with Sanhedrin. We discussed this at length in Shabbos. L'Rab Yasi to tell us you get a lav and not misa l'lad yatzis. And L'Rab Nasan l'chalik yatzis to tell us that if someone does balamachas all the malachas, we learn from lav of leisivaru that you get multiple averis. Kedetanya avar l'lav yatzis. Divrei Rab Yasi v'nasan l'chalik yatzis. So what's your kasha? What do you bring in leisivaru eish? Ela merava tana meishavas. If you look inside the pasuk says leisivaru eish bechol meishavei seichem. Usually bechol meishavei seichem means in all your places. Don't think just Eretz Yisrael. So we know a lot of stuff truma, a lot of stuff have halachas of Eretz Yisrael. So therefore we come to tell us even in the United States, for example. However, why in the world would you think otherwise when it comes to these averis? Tana meishavas kashlei meishavas matam aleimer. We all know mechti Shabbos is chayvus agufu. Shabbos is throughout the entire world. So Meshavos, why does it say leisivaru eish b'chol meshavos eichem? The kasach one lamali. The answers meshum Rabbi Shmuel. Amatamad echol fishenamar. Talmud says in the name of Rabbi Shmuel. Fishenamar says in the pasuk. Ki yiyeh be'ish chait mishpat mamis v'humas, and you kill him. Shemei, you would say, okay, humas, even on Shabbos. Shemei ani be'mechol be'Shabbos. V'amani mekayim mechalaleho mois yumas. You should kill him. I'll tell us. B'sham malachos chutz mebezdin. I have a shaylo. Is it dafka chutz mebezdin? Says Bezdin. So mani mekayim v'humas to tell us b'chol b'Shabbos. B'Shabbos. So I'm not sure what to do. Do I kill him on Shabbos or not? Tamelaymar leisivaru eish. The misa of eish. And once you know the misa of eish, which is sreifa, all of the misas are equal. Leisivaru eish b'chol meshavos eichem. V'lahalonu aimer. And later on it says v'hayu eila lechem. It should be for you lechukas mishpat ledaris eichem b'chol meshavos eichem. And b'chol meshavos eichem mean what? Sanhedrin means the Bezdin. Ma Meshavos Amar Lalam Bezdin. Af Meshavos Amar Kam Bezdin. V'Amar Achmana leisivaru eish. You don't do eish. You don't do the misa sreifa. Meshavos eichem and Bezdin when? On Shabbos. Very geshmak gemara. Amar Abai Hashda Matem Ritzicha Deiches Shabbos. Okay, we clearly learn it from Sukkim. Meshavos eichem. You don't kill on Shabbos. So in Ritzicha Deiches Avodah Mekavachaymer. You should make a kavachaymer and learn that you don't pull away the kohen. Ma b'Shabbos we know shenitches mipnei avodah, but still in Ritzicha Deiches Avodah, which is Deiches Shabbos, she Deiches Shabbos in a din. Shaloi te Ritzicha Deiches. You know what you're going to answer? He says, Me'imtis b'chenu. Tikachenu lamas. It's Tavka dahu l'karban yachid. And what do we hand in on Shabbos? The karban tabed, which is the rabbin. The loy dachi Shabbos. So I'm a Rav Yachi, loy say ritzicha daiche karban yachid mekavachaymer. You still shouldn't pull him away from a kavachaymer, but even by karban yachid, not just a talmud. Why? One lamed vav amar aleph ma yom tov. We know shenitchem ibnei karban yachid. So it's a shaila, it's a machlekes. We're going to feed the Tana that holds you are. Ein ritzicha daiche. So because yom tov, there's no regarding yom tov Shabbos, there's no difference. Rather eichel nefesh. So it has the exact same halachas. And there's a man dama that holds that yom tov, it is nitchem for karban yachid. Karban yachid, shu doiches yomtiv, ein edin shalei tzeicha doichesai. And the Gemara's masber, nich laman dama in the dama in the davas krimi yomtiv, laman dama in the dama in the davas krimi yomtiv, Michael Ameimar. The kasha is according to the Tana holds you do. Alama Rava loy mivay, laman dama in the darim in the davas krimi yomtiv, the haloi miskaim bechlav. They don't learn at the psukim mim is b'chi klal. Elafil man dama, even the one that holds the dama in the davas ain't krimi yomtiv. Haksir to tell us me'im mizbechi am yuchali. What's the mizbech that's so miyuchad? Umaynu tamid v'amar achmani. You know what it says? Me'im mizbechi, which we're learning the karban tamid. Tikachanu lamos. You pull him away and you taka give him misa. Dine memoiners like the Mishnah Vayter tmeos v'tahirus. What do we do b'chulei? We start from what? The gadol. The chief dayan gets up. The way it worked, the most chashuv was in the middle, and he starts with his opinion. However, we know by din nefashis it's otherwise. We start at tzad, and the reason is quite simple. Usually, if you have a CEO who gives his das what to do for a business policy, everyone else it's much harder to argue because you already heard the chief opinion. However, bedin aman is not a problem. Amarav ano havai b'minyana debei Rabbi. I was one time in a vote, and umino didi have a maschil liberation. They started with me minatzad. V'anan we know maschil minagadol tanan. And it wasn't din nefashis. He was bothered. Why did they start from me? They should have started from the chief. From Rabbi. Amarav read the Rabbi, Tamer Rabbi read the Rav Alas, Shani minyana debei Rabbi, the kula minyano minatzad of maschili. Why Rabbi was an anav. He had so much anav that they all started from the tzad. He didn't want to give his original, he didn't want to start off with his opinion. The lav dafka has to start mamash from the edge. The point is, it's not starting from the ikar in the middle. That's the concept. To have someone who's mamish, the nasi, like Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of Klal Yisrael, and be the gadol adar, we never found it. Torah v'gdula. B'malkim echad, correct the marvel loy. V'havi Yeshua, there was Yeshua, l'chariyat Torah v'gdula. My answers have a Lazar. V'ava Pinchas, there was Pinchas. No, Avetz Kenim. V'ava Shul, the Shul was a melech and he was at the Torah. Have a Shmuel. Zok Gemara v'anachna say Shmuel died. No, Kulish Kamrin. I mean Shul his whole life. Now it's very interesting. We're going to keep on asking very similar questions and answer the same thing of Kulish Kamrin. I'm not sure why we're being so repetitive. Okay, V'ava David. Ivy or Yari. Oh, v'anachna he died. Kulish Kamrin. See, this type of thing keeps on happening. V'ava Shloimeh. Have a Shem and Begeir. V'ava Katla he died. Kulish Kamrin. I mean his whole life. V'ava Chizkiah. Have a Shevna. V'iktal he died. Kulish Kamrin. I mean all his years. V'ava Ezra. No, Ava Nechem ibn Chach. Ben. Chelaya. Amr Rabbi Abba Afani Amr Rabbi Adrav Ashi Loy Metzina Torah Gdula Makam Echad. Correct the Mars. Is that really true? V'loy have a Huna Bar Nasan, and Huna Bar Nasan was on the level of Rav Ashi. Moran says no. Huna Bar Nasan Mechaf have a Chayv Le Rav Ashi. He would be humble towards Rav Ashi and let him whatever. If he paskin, he would go with him. Din in Afashis, we start with Meschilim and Atzad. Minanamila, we didn't know this from Rav Papa, Rav Acham, Rav Kor says Leisan al Riv. You do not respond to an argument, but if you look inside the Psukim, there's no Yud. Leisan al Rav. Rav means your Rebbe. You don't respond to him. Therefore, we want you to start from the Tzad, because once your Rebbe, once the master opens up, no one's going to want to argue with him. Rabbi Baruch Hanam, Rabbi Yechon Mahacha. V'yaymed David Lanashav. David tells his people regarding killing. And it says each one took out the swords, and then only afterwards, only afterwards David went and Taka joined them with the killings. Person can teach his a person can learn with his Talmud and immediately even though he's his Talmud. Regarding Tyron Tumah, okay, then I have a bnoi, I have a tamid, and mine and count as two separate votes. However, Bedinim and Mainais, and Din and Afashis, Vidine Makis, and Kiddush HaChaydish V'Bashana, I have a bnoi, I have a tamid, ain't mine and Melechot. So what's going on? You just told me we do count it as two votes. One Lamed Vavam Abeis, Kikam Rav, you know what we're talking about? Kigoyer of Kahana of Asi, the Ligmer in the Rav Havitzrichi, Ulisva the Rav Lo Havitzrichi. The Hainu, there's two types of Talmidim. There's a Talmud that what do we call? He's Shteltzu. He's totally, there's Rabbi, his opinions, whatever he says. And then there's someone like Rav Kahana, Rav Asi, all they push and need is the knowledge. They don't need the svaras. They're already in such a high madrega. Oh, that's taka the law. So based on that law, I'll give my opinion. In such a case, we count them as two separate votes because they're not working like a Talmud that's machni himself completely to his Rebbe. Omer avo asar dvarim. If you look inside the Mishnah, yesh bein dinei ma'maynais l'dinin nefashis. Right? We learned there's 23 dayanim. We're paising l'schos. We know about the chayva that what you need to have at least two to convict. We know a machzirin. Once you start l'schos, a machzirin l'chayva. Another halacha is the talmidim. Don't get up and start speaking in talmidim l'chayva. And the sixth halacha was that once you start l'din shehiskel l'schos, you never go back to chiv. We know the danin dafka beyoyim. And you need to think about it overnight. Lam belayla. The ninth is what? That the chief judge doesn't open up. Maschilim and atzad. And the final one is, the Gemara is going to talk about, that it has to be somebody that's good. Yuchsin lafuke mamzer. Those are the 10 in our Mishnah. So asara dvarim yesh bein dinim a minus l'dinim nefashis v'kulan ein ahagim shar nisko. Regarding shar nisko, chutz masim v'shleisha, because we have from Sukkot. But about you don't need 20. You don't need to be done belayla, etc. We know what I mean. Amar Rav Acha bar Papa Amar Kra says in the pasuk, Loi satem mishpat evyonecha berivi. You shouldn't lean towards the evyon when you have an argument. And there's no having it to say that there's no tzad to say that a person would go towards the ani, even though it's an ani. We're going to learn this for something else. That mishpat evyonecha yetamata mishpat shel shar nisko. However, we're going to say regarding shar nisko, we're going to bring it to hekesh, and we're going to learn it out we're going to schlep it to the shar nisko. Frektamara asara. What do you mean? Hatesava. There's only 9. What do you mean? Asar Gdiktani is the last one. Mishum the Enakol Scheiner. Because the last one that said that not everyone's kashi, you have to have a good yichus lafukim mamzer. Ve'esim mishleish chadi. He says, sorry. Sure, it's called Tasav Asar Gdiktani Mishum the Enakol Scheiner ve'esim mishleish chadi. Mine says Aikach Riti. Be'etzim there's another one. You're right. The last one of Chav Gimel and the halacha of mamzer is really one point. The only reason why you can't be a mamzer is because you need to put your part of Chelik Sanhedrin. So it really boils down to 9. So where do we have 10? My answer is Aikach Riti Detanya Ein Mashivim Sanhedrin. You don't put a Sanhedrin in Zakin. And the reason why I don't do it, he's already old. He forgets what it means to be a Rachman. When he has babies, when people have young children, they have much more Rachmanis. Visaris, that's Pashut, because he can't have children. It's based on like an Azakin. Umisha Ein Lebanim, someone who doesn't have children. Rav Yehuda Maisif Afachzari, even someone who's by nature is cruel. We don't want him. We found this earlier. Don't have pity him. Don't cover for him. Either Rabbi, we want him to die. Hakol ksherin ladun dinim amoinus. Everybody is kosher. We said even a mamzer. Kol asui mai. Omer Rav Yehuda asui mamzer. Correct. Mar tanina chadazim. They already have this from somewhere else. Kol aroi ladun dinim nefashis is roi ladun dinim amoinus. V'yesh roi. There are people that roi ladun dinim amoinus. Vein roi dinim nefashis. And who is that? V'abinam lasui mai. V'am Rav Yehuda lasui mamzer. So what's going on? Why do we need two mishnas to tell us lafuke mamzer to include us on mamzer? Mar says chada lasui ger. Once for a ger, the chada lasui mamzer. So why do I need both? Why do I need ger and mamzer and tricha? Diyash meaning ger. I'll tell you why. You know why he can be done. The royal love of a kahal. He can marry anyone. Of a mamzer, I'll tell you maybe not. Viyash meaning mamzer. I'll tell you the bal. My says mother's a yid. The bal metipak sheira. Of a ger the loy bal metipak sheira. Malay mainly needed both mishnayos. One to tell us what ger. One to tell us even a mamzer. The both pot kosher to be a dying tricha. The ein hakol ksherin ladun dinin nefashis. My timer, the Tanya of Yosef Kashem Shabaz the Menukim Tzedek, just like that to be clean. And Averis v'chulei, Kach Menukim Mekom Mum, even on Mum. Amar me Mikra. What's this pasuk? In order, this talking about Sanhedrin says, Kulach Yafe Rayasi. Should all be beautiful, my friends. Mum aim b'chayin. You have no mum. V'dom mum mamish. Maybe it means the guy doesn't have a hand. Like by Kahanim, we find such concepts. Amar Rav Yaakov Mikra, it says regarding Moshe Rabbeinu v'Yisyasu Sham Imcha. V'Yisyasu Sham. Imach, they should be with you, they should stand together with you. Imach b'daimilach. V'dilma hasam shum shchina. Okay, there the Sanhedrin has shchina. So therefore you can't have a mum. B'shein can a regular bezin, there's no shchina involved. Elam Rav Nachman Yitzchak Amakra, this is regarding Yisroi. Where Yisroi, there was no shchina involved, and it still says, V'nasu, itach, b'daimilach alahave, there should be taka. Not just b'tzedek, also b'mum. Zok the Heilige Mishnah, Sanhedrin, Haisa, Kechetzi, Geirin. Agula, it was basically a semicircle. You picture it, not a complete circle. They sat like that. Rashi's Masber, the Eidim, the Yanim, everyone can see each other. Also, if you have so many people sitting on one table, in order to talk, you'd have to crank your necks. No one can really see each other. Mashen gets a circle, everyone's together. Kadesh, you right, it says that. Vishnei Sefer the Yanim, Ainil Fnei, you had 2 scribes. Echad miyamin, like we said, Echad mismal. V'kais and Diver Mechayim and Diver Zakin. Rav Yehuda argues. Rav Yehuda says you need to have 3. You need to have one scribe to focus on one person, like that, there's no mix-up. One scribe to focus on the chayiv, one for the zakai, and the third to get both. Like that, you'll be able to see a very clear picture. B'yudayim shleisha. Echad kaised dem zakim, echad kaised dem chayivim, shleisha kaised both different zakim, different mechayiv. V'shalosh shuras on the top of Lamed Zayin Amad Aleph. V'shalosh shuras shel tamidei chachamim yosef name. And yet 3 shuras. Rashi's masber. How many of 23? And Rashi says it doesn't make sense. All you're going to see is Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin, we need only 70, 71, 23. So why do we need 23? There's no reason for 69 Talmidim. That's really what's happening. You have 23 times 3. He says it doesn't make sense, like Rashi. To have, for example, 24, 24. Like that, all you really need is 48. He says, Pasnish, because to have the Talmidim more than Dayanim, that's too much. 24. So and to have, let's say, all we really need is 48, maybe you should split it up on an equal level. He says, no, the only way to do it, you can't split 48 and divide into 3. So the only way to do it would be, let's say, 20, 28. It's also pasnish to have that it's not equal rows. Therefore, the only way to do it is like Rashi is 23 times 3. And in Echanami, there are extra Talmidim. Every person should be able to know where he sits. And the Ainu was mamash chashivas. Yeah, because the way it's going to work, we're going to see it's mamash like... it's going to be like cheers. Everyone moves one chair over. Every time a person comes to dayan, every single person is going to move a place, continue over a seat. Like this, everyone moves one seat extra. You take some of the kal, and where do we put him? All the way to the end. You don't go to the seat that became empty, not the vacant seat. Rather, everyone moves slowly, like a chain reaction. Where do we know this? Look tomorrow. It says in the pasuk, we mentioned this pasuk once. Shararich, which is a naval agon. We're going to play in these words agon of a lashon, which means basically we're going to learn a lashon protection. Hasar, it's moon shaped. Al yechser hamezek. It says you should not dilute the wine. Bitnech arei maschitim sukok b'shashanim. We're going to go through this whole pasuk slowly. It's a pasuk shir. Shvarech, the navel zu Sanhedrin, and Lamanikor Shma Shvarech, she yesheves b'dur shalaylam, sits by the lishkas agazes. Agen, she meginal kalam kulay, protects the whole world. Hasar, moon shape, she doimil asar, like we said, it's a semicircle. Al yechzar mezek, we learned shem hutzrach, echamem lotz. It's not like Dvar Mitzvah, like we saw earlier on. When you're down in the base, Taisa spoke about it that everyone could add some leave for mitzvah. We learned for Ibra Chaydish that everyone leaves. Rayim yesh esim yishleisha keneged Sanhedrin tani. You have to have 23 yaitz of him lav. He's not able to leave any yaitz. Then the pasuk continues, bitnech, your stomach. Arei maschitim is like a wheat of what? It's like a pile of wheat. Ma arei maschitim, just like a pile of wheat. I call nanim ena, av Sanhedrin, I call nanin mitameim. Everyone's able to enjoy from them. Suga by Sheishanim. Now suga, the little type of suga, is like a hedge. When you have your hedge of bushes that's protecting at the perimeter. So all it is roses. What are we trying to bring out from the pasuk? Suga kashanim shafilu, even kesuga shel shashanim. Even though it's just, you could easily just walk right over the perimeter. La yifrutza bahem pertzais. We're not going to be pirates. We're going to discuss Mitzvah Hashem later on, all about the minim. But this man who's a heretic, he didn't believe in the Bible, he tells us kahana. I don't understand. You're telling me a nida. Nida sharli yuchud b'hadi gavra. How do you understand a nida could be miyachid with the husband? You're going to put the fire chips right near a fire. You put the most flammable material near a fire. How do you understand? You put a bow with his wife who's a nida. We know from Taisus and Ksubas, Gemara and Ksubas, that it has to be that they had already done tashmish, and we already explained that nida's mutter b'baylo because she knows that she's going to be eventually mutter l'baylo. Reish Lakish Amma Mahacha says in the pasuk, Kefelach, which means the sections, Arima and Rakasach. The little touch means your temples, but we're going to plan the words. Dafilu Reikanish Bach, even your empty ones. Milei mitzvahs Karim, and full of mitzvahs like a pomegranate. Rab Zeir Amma Hacha. This is talking about Yitzchak with Yaakov. It says, Vayarech es reach, begadav, he smells his clothing. Vayrechen, he gave him the bracha. Al tikri begadav, his clothing. Bagdav, the traders, the people, even the people that are not Mekayim all the mitzvahs. Hanu, the Gemara is going to say a Maisa, Hanu ber Yaini, which means like a Chaver off the derech, the bombs, the rough Chaver, we call them Shababniks, whatever, the Chaver that weren't part, they were leaving Yiddishkeit. David b'Shavusi, Reb Zeira, and their name of Reb Zeira. David Mekarvlu, Reb Zeira would talk to them, Chveis, what he would do with them. Kihechid, and Ahadilu, and he would sit and talk to them. Like that they should do, but you have to, and they should do tshuva. Rabbanan were very upset. Their Abzer is talking to these chaver. They started coming, they were crying. I guess they came to the Shiva, they were crying, they said, the shorty with the burnt feet. We all know the Maisim of Mitzia that he burnt his feet. He ended up with Einar. He used to jump into the ovens, and eventually his feet burnt. He used to daven for us that we should do tshuva. Who's going to do us rachmi? Very fascinating. Maisa, we see from here, even Kirov Kroivim. This is, I guess, what we see from there. We said Shaloi Shuras. We have 23 times 369 Talmidim sit in 3 rows. Amabai Shmami no Kinaidi Kulu Naid. Kinaidi, when once someone moves, it's an automatic chain reaction. Kulu Naidi. What's going on? I was sitting on the first seat on the second row. Now I'm going to go to the last seat on the third row. Bizayin. We tell him, have a zon of la rayos. You're better off being the tail of the lion than being the head of the fox. Okay, Zok the Mishnah, brand new Mishnah. How do we threaten and intimidate these Eidim? Al Eidin Afashis, we bring them home, we bring them in Ma'im and we tell them. Shamar Timer, maybe Ma'imit. Aimit was basically what we call in English circumstantial evidence. Umishmo, and here say Ein Mipi Eid, Mipi Adam. Now when you trust him, Shami Yitim Yedenu, don't you know? Yoidin, Shisofenu lived like Eschem Adrisha Vechakir, we are going to grow you and do cross examinations. Have a Yoidin, you should know. Shalai Kidinim Aminas Dinim Afashis. Dinim Aminas, no. Oh, the nice moment, you give you money, Miskaper. Like. Din and Nefashis. However, when you kill somebody based on your Eidos, Damai, not just his Dam, Vidam Zra'is of his own future generations, Tului by Tzef Oilam. Shekem Etzin Bekain Charga Zachiv, we know when Cain killed his brother. Shenem, it says, call Demei, not Dam. Your brother's blood is Achicha Tzakim. Einar Medam Achicha, Dmei Achicha, to tell us, Damai, Vidam Zra'is. Davacher, Dmei Achicha, Shei Damai, Mushlach, Ala Eitzim, Elavanim, that is Dam spread everywhere. The Fikach, and then Nivra Adam Echidi. There's a shayla if we say this to the person or not. It's a big shayla, but we're saying this concept Nivra Adam Echidi Lametcha to tell you Shekol Ma'abein Nefesh Achis Misrael Malol B'Kosav Gili B'Rabi Lamoli V'Chol Mekayim Nefesh Achas Misrael Malol B'Kosav Gili Kayim Olamoli Ubnei Shalom Habriya Shalayam Adam L'Chaveiroi. What do you mean, Abba? Another reason why we had Adam Arishan and now 2 people created immediately. The world started from who? Adam Arishan. So we all come from one shirish. What do you mean? My father is better than your tati, right? You see that he created more than one person, and then with a bunch of rishuyas. When you have one ink, one signature, we all come from Adam Rishon, and every single person looks a little different. No one's compared to each other. Lefikach kol echad ve'echad chayiv loymar b'shvili nivra olam v'shema taimru wan lamazayna veis. I don't want this then. Well, you're going to come to Bezin to give a simple edus and you start ripping me up. Maybe we should be nervous. We're killing this guy. We're going to discuss this at length. By killing these Rishayim, if his taka deserves to die, Rina, taka full of simcha. Zok the Gemara, Tanu Rabbanon Ketzad Ma'imit. What does it mean, Ma'imit? So we all know there's a concept of Umdana, what we call circumstantial. Zok the Hilig Gemara, Aimer Lahen. Maybe Shema Kachrisa. Maybe this is what you saw. One guy's running the churba. The guy's running with a knife, and you run after him, but you caught up only, let's say, a quarter of a mile later. By the time you come, you see the dagger or the sword in his hand, and it's blood pouring out of the sword. He's like twitching. Basically, he's dead already. Did you see him stabbing him? The answer is no, then it's worthless. It's also the Lashon Shvua. We read it as a Lashon Shvua. What happened was, he sees Reuven going into our churva. I run after him. By the time I got there, it was only one of us that killed him. What could I do? However, you must amaze. Yifra ma'isa ish ha'argis chaveira amur. They said, "Loizazu misham acha b'nachash." We're going to talk about nachash, which the poison, which is more of a sreifa. It killed him. V'kisha v'meis. Why does he deserve sreifa? Sanhedrin. But harba misas leibatlu. What do you mean? We all know. There's no, the Bezdin doesn't kill. Ella din arba misas leibatlu. That what mish and eschayis skilo. What's going to happen is oy neifel managag oy chayo does the rasta like skilo. Mish and eschayis reifa rachmana litzlan oy neifel but like oy nachash makishi is going to get bitten by a snake. And we look at the vermin, the poison, like sreifa burning his body. Mish and eschayis verigoy nimsel malchus which they behead him. I listen bundle of them they behead him. Mish and eschayis chanek oy tever by now he drowned. Oy meisber shurnchini. We talk about this in the Chumash. Shurchan is a tremendous, extremely painful death. Rashi says that the throat chokes, it closes up. Amri no, who he bats him deserves sreifa. You're right. He also deserves skila for killing a person. And he held. We know sreifa is chamer miskila. Ma'imit. We said umdana is circumstantial. In fact, the Gemara. Is this really true that Dafka by Din and Afashis we don't rely on circumstantial evidence? But regarding Maminus we do by Din and Afashis Ulayim Dinan. How by Din and Maminus Dinan? Come on, who is this like? Karbacha the Taniracha Imer Gomal Aicher ben Egmal. Now when the Gomal's mating, he tends to kill all the other animals near it. Benimsa Gomal Harg Bitsida. Be do we can assume. Shazah Hargoi. Are you going to tell me Bedina Maminus? You tell me I'm Rinan. So don't compare anything that we said Bedina Fashis that we're going to say, oh, by Maminus we do. But now we know Mamar who? Oh, Melishini Chayu. Loi, Ishplain, Melishu Chayu, Loi, Melklom. Achiyom Efneino. I don't Lishu Chayu, Loi, Masayim says, Alma, I've got the Psila Bedina Maminus. We still say, I'm Rinan Bedina Fashis. Achanami, I've got the Psila Bedina Maminus. I'm Rinan Bedina Fashis. Don't start comparing. Oh, it says Bedina Fashis we don't do an Umdana. Oh, so by Bedina Maminus we do an Umdana. No. Don't compare the two. We find certain scenarios where there's no question about it. For example, 8 that you don't rely on din fashis, and who it din you don't rely it by din minus. Havu yoidim v'chulei. We start giving. You should know that you're going to kill somebody. You're going to kill his future generations v'chulei. Rav Yehuda Spitz. What happened was chaburis psias. He was stabbing him and stabbing him and stabbing. Didn't know where he died until he got to his neck. Once the earth opened up to take the dam of Kain, the kibbutz dam shel Hevel, sorry, shuv lePascha, never opened again. Never, like it says, miknaf, the edges, the corners of the Aretz, zmira shemani. We heard the song, tzvila tzaddik, praise for the tzaddik. That what? Miknaf, dafku from the edges, the corners of the Aretz, v'loy mipi Aretz. We're going to see Chizkiah, there was twins. We're going to see this from Yehuda Chizkiah, there were two twins. But Tiftach Aretz is Piyah. We know by Kayrach V'Adasai, it opened up. No, you're right. L'ra Pascha, L'tayva L'Pascha. It never opened up L'tayva again. Golus, Mechaperes, Avoy, Mechsa. Golus, when you go to Golus, it's enough to clean out 50%. Mikar Ksiv, regarding Kain. Vahisi no vinot. The Labasek just says Vayeshiv Eretz Noid, and no is ready, gone after the Golus. Amri the Golus Mechaper Shleishet Dvarm Shenem Ar, like it says in the pasuk. Kaya Mar Hashem Gaimer Hayeshiv V'Irazais. Yomus Becherev Uverav Uvedever. Vayitze V'Nafal Alakisnim Atzar Melechem. V'Chaya V'Haisalai Nafshay. L'Shalom. Rabbi Yechon Amar Golos Mechaper Sal Kol Shenem Koyim Hashem Kisvus Ha'eshes regarding Chanaya Hazeh Hariri Gavar LeYitzchak BeYamav. He's not going to be Matzliach. This person's going to die childless, and we're going to see what happened. Ki LeYitzchak Mizar Ish Yosef Akisi David Umayshal Yehuda and Basa the Gala. What happened after the Galas by Yechanaya? Ksiv Uvnei Yechanaya was what? Asir, which we're going to discuss why it's Asir and Shaltil. Asir and Shaltil B'nai. Asir. Why is it called Asir? Interesting name. Shebarte Ima Beisasurim. It's actually very interesting. Yechanaya was in prison, and they had Tashmish in prison, in the pit, we're going to see in a moment, and that's how they ended up having this kid. Shaltil, Shaltoi, Kel, Kederech, Anishtolen, and the Shtolen is Lashon plant. I knew the way that you're able to, usually with Tashmish, the person has to be Shchiva. Gemir, Sheini, Shemesaberes, Mu'ubad. Behin, is Abra, Mu'ubad, like Rashi's Mazda, was a very narrow pit, so they had to do Tashmish standing. One Lamed Chesem at Aleph, Dava Acher, Shaltil, Shenishal, Alasai. Kaviyachol, that he asked them to be matir, the Pamal Shamali, whatever that means, to be matir the shvur that he made. Allah tells, and what was it called? Zerubbabel, Shenizrubbabel, Mashmanoi, what's his name? Nechemia ben Chachalai Yoshemoi. Yehuda v'Chizkiyahu on the top of Lamed Ches Amud Aleph. Yehuda v'Chizkiyahu, there were two brothers, they were twins. Bnei Reb Chia, Hava Yasi v'Sudasa, Kamei Rebbe. They were sitting in front of Rebbe. I guess they were quite, they were quiet, they were timid. I guess they were shy. Go give them a little wine, get them up a little. So they can start talking. Once they started getting a little intoxicated, get ready for what they said. Ein ben David ba, Mashiach is not coming. And who is this? And you guys, the Nasi Shebe'eretz Yisrael. This is Mamish telling this to Rebbe, who is the Nasi. Nasi Shebe'eretz Yisrael. Shenamar says regarding Mashiach, he's going to be in the sanctuary. Ula even negef. It's going to be a tripping stone with lots of michshol and a stone block to hu lishnei bat Yisrael. Amar lahen, he tells him, Bane, what's going on? You're putting thorns in my eyes. You're basically saying I'm going to have to die in order for Mashiach to come. Amar Reb Chia, Rabbi Ayer benecha. Why? Yayin is Yud, is 10, Nun is 50, it's 70, Nita B'Shivim, Isis. V'Soid, which is Samach 60, Vav Dalid, is another 10, 60 plus 10, Nisa B'Shivim, Isis. B'Shivim, Isis, that what? We all know. Nichnas, Yayin, Yaitzei, Soid. Rav Chizda, Rav Ukva, Rav Chizda, one states, not just Rav Ukva himself. Darash, Mari Bamar, Ma'idich what does the pasuk say? Vayash, it says in the pasuk as follows: Vayishkoit, Lashon quick, Hashem ala ra, Vayavei Aleinu ki tzadik, Hashem Elokeinu. We don't understand the what? Mishum the tzadik Hashem, because that word tzadikim, therefore Rebbe Shalom is going to bring the ra quicker. That makes no sense. Vayishkoit Hashem ala ra, Vayavei Aleinu. My answer is yes. Tzedakah Sakadosh Baruch Hu Rebbe Shalom did the biggest favor to us. That what? Im Yisrael shehigdim galus letzitkiyahu. That the galus letzitkiyahu was extra 2 years. Why? V'adayin, they changed. V'adayin galus yechanaya kayemes tichsev bebe galus yechanaya. It says as follows. V'hacharosh. Charosh over here means a craftsman. V'masker, the people that closed the gates. Elef, there were 1,000 of them. And we're playing on the words. Charosh. Kivan shepaiskim hakol nasu kechareshim. Everyone became deaf. Masker kivan shesaygim balacha shuvim paiskim. Bekamayu elef. And therefore they're able to continue and teach the Torah. Ula ama shehektim shtei shanim live vishinantim. Vishinantim, you go through the gematras, 852. Amar v'achav yakush mami no mehero demari alma tamni mea v'chamshim v'tartin havas 852. Like we know that Yitzias Mitzrayim, what happened in the year of 2448. Then Shloimeh, 480 years later, built the first Beis HaMikdash. How long was the Beis HaMikdash Kaim? 410 years. 410 plus 480 is how many? 890. So 890, but you have to count that how many years were they in the wild? There was 40 years. 890 minus 40 is 815. However, 850. But if we would have got to 852, we would have been destroyed. So Rebbe Shalom did the biggest favor for us by making Gullus another 2 years earlier by the year 850 and not 852. Lefikach v'chulei. Taner Rabbanan Adam, we tell them the Shvili Nivra Olam, like we saw. Taner Rabbanan Adam Yichidi Nivra. Name Ma Shelai Yamin Ma'imrim. Haber Rishus B'Shamayim. There's plenty of Rishus. Davachim Ne Tzadikim Ne Rishon. Shelai Tzadikim Ma'imrim. Anu B'nei Tzadik. Oh, we come from the Tzadik. We have nothing to worry about. We can hang out with these Rishon. We're better than them. V'Rishon Ma'imrim Anu B'nei Rasha. We can never do tshuva. We come from the Rasha. Davachim Mipnei Mishpachas Shalai Mishpachas Misgar. Shouldn't quarrel and fight with each other. Ma'achshav should never think about it. Ma'achshav should never yachid. Misgaris, we still fight. Nivru shnei malachas kama kama. If everyone have the same concept, everyone have the same people, the gazlan and the chamsanim, they're going to say, what do you mean? It belongs to me. Doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to you. It's from my fathers. Ma'achshav should never yachid. We still come. Guys on the chamsanim, nivru shnei malachas kama v'kama. Ulahage gulasa the Rebbeinu Shalom that we all look different. Mashenkin by a stamp is not like that. V'chulu turn about lahage gulasa shemelach machem lachem hakadosh baruch hu she'adam taveh kamet b'ayis b'chaysim echa v'kulam. They all look the same. Dom zil zeh. Havel hakadosh baruch hu taveh kol adam b'chaysam shel adam rishon. We all come from one person. Adam rishon. We all look different. Vein echa mehem dom lechaver she'namar like it says. Tesapech kechaymer chaysam. You should take from the mold to the clay. V'yisyavtzu k'may levush. And they stand up like a levush is talking about tchias amesim yetzer Hashem. When a person dies, he's going to stand up. Why don't we all look alike? What's the big deal? You know why? Oh, it's my wife. You have to know if the wives also look the same. So what's the real table? They're masbid that the wives, there's still meanness involved. There's still personality. It's not all about the looks. Shenamar, like it says, we take away their light, their high kilus, their arm, tishaver. How do we do that? By basically everyone looks different, and therefore they can't tie. Oh, what do you mean? This is my wife, etc. There are three things that every person, Bikol, you pick up the phone, you can hear his voice. Some people sound similar, but everyone has a different voice. Ubimara, with looks, ubidas. Rabban created that we all have different reasonings. Bikol amara, mishum erva. Like we know, during the day, the problem is the looks the same, and the voice at night, if it's had the same voice, by mistake you end up doing znus. Ubidas, and they'll understand, oh, you know why he's not leaving his house? Because he has the money. They're able to think like you, v'chulei. Tana about an Adam Nivra, who was created when? Be'er Shabbos. That's why it's dafka only later. Davar acher. Shem tazuach daita all of a person comes arrogant, becomes about gaiva. Ahimr, we tell him, Ahimr lay, yetush, even the little bugs. Kadmach b'mais bereshis. You were last. Davar acher kedei shikanos l'mitzvah. Miyad, you should go into Shabbos. Davar acher kedei shikanos l'suda miyad. Mashal mech v'asavadam. Shabana palter, when you build a palace. The shechlan, you decorate it. The hiskan suda, you make the whole meal. You get the catering, the waiters. The achakach, only after everything is done. The achakach hichnis archim shenamar, like it says. Chachmas bansa besa. We're going to go through the psukim slowly. Chatzva, flush and carving it out. Amudeh shiva, 7 pillars. Tavcha tivcha, she prepares the meat. Mischa yena, and they dilute the wines. Av archa shulchana, she sets the table. Then shulchaner say you call the maids tikra. And al gab pi, which means on the high top of the city, miraimi kairos. Chachma bansa besa wadzu midas shalakadosh baruch hu shenivers kalaylam kula bechach. What's the meat to carve out 7 pillars? Chatzah from that sheba elu shivas and mebereshis. Tavcha tivcha maschiyena af archa shechana elu yamav and hariv v'chad tzarcha elam. The whole world's ready for us. Shachon nikriseh tikra ze adam v'chava. We called adam chava al gapi miraimi kairos. That rot. Rabbi Chana Ramiksiv says al gapi, which means lashon more on the top. Chsev al kisei, which is lashon sitting lower. Betchila lefnei the chait was what? Al gapi. After the chait of Basayif, after he did the chait, we're going to see Mamash and Base how quick he did the chait from when he was born. So this whole mice happened in one day. Al kisei. The pasuk continues. Then we have another pasuk. Mi thesi yasur heina. Chaser leiv amrulai. What's this pasuk? Amakadosh Baruch Hu. Mi pisai who persuaded the lazeh isha. Yeah, this is chava, right? Who they end up doing? They're very blame that a chava. Amrulai dichsev naif isha chaser leiv. A isha that does znus and tashmish. She's somebody that doesn't have the seichel. Tanya he was gathered afar. The whole world, we took off from the entire world. Rebbe Shem did it. Shenam, like it says, Golmi Lashon Gailam, his unshaped body still. Ro Einechet saw everything that the body of Adam was able to get from everywhere. Uchsev ki Hashem Einav Mishaytetais is swept b'chol haaretz. Amar Vayshim Mishmei the Rav Adam Arisha in 1 Lamed Chesem Beis. Gufay mi Bavel, the guf, which means like the torso, the main ikar of the body, was from Bavel. Raisha, which was high in Eretz Yisrael. The Varif was from everywhere. Mishar Ratzis, like Vaisav, his rear was from Mira Mavacha, Ma'akar the Agma, which was in Bavel, but very, very deep. There's mamish 12 hours, the whole fascinating incident with Adam Rishon. Shari Scheiner, Hutzvafar. We gathered the earth, the earth to create it. The Rebbeinu Shalom. Shnia Nasa Gailam, he was still a Gailam. Shlishis Nimtam Choyvarv, his limbs were spread out. Revius, the 4th hour, Nizgor Ben Shama. Chamishis Amad Ragal, because it took an hour to wake up. You have to know exactly how big the hour was. Shishis Kar Shemus, the other Rishon called all the animals' names. Shviz Nizdavgal Lechava, Shminis Al Lamata Shnaim Yardar Ba. Cain had a twin sister. It happened immediately. The birth happened mamish within minutes. Cheese, the 9th hour, and it's Tavish Lechem in Elon. Mamish an hour later, Asira Sarach he did Avera, Achas Sunidan, Ishtemis and Nitrad V'Halachlai, and that was it. He left the 8th. He left Gan Eden. Shenamar Adam Bikon, his glory Bal Yolin is not going to even be overnight. Amar Rameh Chamein Chayara Sheletis Ba'Adam. We all know very fascinating, even an animal that you should be scared of, he's not afraid of you. He's afraid of you. If you act like a behemoth, then if you act like a behemoth, then avada, they're able to control you. But if you're nimshol, then you're fine. You want to create the Adam Rishon. So he created these malachim shemayim. You want to make it so like malachim. So they asked the malachim, asked Rebbeinu Shalom, what is it? How are they going to look down here? So Amru, they said as follows. Amr lahan, Rebbeinu Shalom tell these malachim, kach v'kach ma'asav, they're going to have a Yitzhatayv, but get ready, they're going to have a Yitzhahara. They said, Amr lefan Rebbeinu Shalom, ma enoish, kisas gerena, the frail man you can remember, ben Adam, the son of a basically a person, ki sifka, then you're going to be mindful of it. So Haishit it's boy Ketana. Rabban Shal took his fingers. All this is Kavayachal, right? The Bainayin, the Sarfan, he burnt them. The Chen Kashnia also happened. But Kashlish is Amrliv. They already learned. They already saw what happened with the first two. Amrliv Rabban Shal Mishainer Shamrliv Lefanecha Ma'ilu. Call Lailam Kulu Shecha. You do what you want. Who Kamasha? Who Shecha? Who Kamasha? The right Selazis. Velamachasei. However, Kivin Shegil Anshidar Mav Anshidar Flagu Shemasemu Kukalim Alam in front of Rabban Shalem. La Yafa Amri Shainer Lefanecha. Weren't they right? Look, they're doing so many averis. A person could always do tshuva till when? Mamish, as long as the light is burning the geimer. Adam Arishon, Misayf Aylam, who's so big, Ad Sayf Ayah. Shenamar Lamina Yoima Shabar Lakim Adam Ala Aretz, Velimikse Shemaim, from the Aretz till Mixa Shemaim, and then Akse Shemaim. The Gemara is going to talk about it, Cheretz Stira, from the universe to universe, and from the earth to the Shemaim. Even Shesar Chaniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yada Olav, and became small. Umiyata Shenamar, Achar, the Kedem Tzartani, Batashas like a pecha, that he was placed upon me like a palm. Amr Abelaz Amr the Rishim in Arts Alukiyah Shenem Lamina Yom Shabar Lakim Adam Ala Aretz Lemixa Shemayim Akser Shemayim Kivin Shesarach Heniach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yad Olav and Miyat Shenemar Achar Kedem Tzartani V'Goyim. So for the more Kashi Dadi. One pasuk sounds like the what Dafka from Aretz Mixa Shemayim, but then it says Mamish right later from Mixa Shemayim till the other universe. Yes, vertical and height and size, everything was one big measurement. He talked Lashon Aramish. And Namar, like it says, V'li ma'yakru Lashon exalted what? Re'echa, my thoughts. And Re'echa is Ra'ayon in Hebrew. However, in Aramic it means Re'echa. Re'echa, kill. V'hainu Damar Rish Lakish Ma'idich says, Zeh Sefer told us Adam, and Lam Sheh Rekdosh Baruch Hu, Dar Shab, Dar V'chachama, Kivin Shegil Dar Shab Akiva, Samach B'terasai. However, we all know how Akiva was killed, right? He was killed in a very cruel death. Someone want to say he was like he was a Pikaris. However, the Rebbeinu Chananel shries in this and says whoever could say this is also elite in a sedin. I am the Rebbeinu Chananel, very fascinating. He says no, it doesn't mean the pshutai. Where are you? The ain't not the libcha. Where did your heart go? And he was trying to cover. He was born Mao, but he was trying to cover itself up. Like it says in the pasuk, "V'heima ka'adam avru bris v'chsev hasam es brisi hafer," and they violated the bris. From Nachman Eifer, no. So we see no kaifer be'ikayux hacha avru bris. How do you know what bris means? V'chsev hasam es brisi hafer v'amar shel azus bris Hashem elakei avaisam. Bris doesn't mean bris mila, rather means kaifer be'ikar. Tanan asam. Rabbi Lezer Aimer, have it shakud lil my Torah v'dama shetev shel abikaris. You should be able to study a lot in order to be able to answer that bikaris. Once a yid goes off the derech, becomes abikaris, there's no hope for him. Whatever you're going to tell him, he's going. We're going to see Mamash next time, and he's always going to give excuses. Whatever they can have start a question, we're right away going to have a tshuva. Now we're going to go through multiple psukim that the min is going to be able to say there's lashon rabim, lashon plural, which means the two rishuyas, and we're going to see either mamish the same pasuk or pasuk later, pasuk earlier, that same concept, and has a lashon yachid of the Rebbeinu Shalom, like that we can answer the meaning. So let's go through this. Nasa adam, nasa is the lashon plural, bitzalmeinu, but it says ve'yivra lashon yachid elikim es adam, bitzalmai also lashon single. Hava ner the let us go down the v'nivla sham also lashon v'nivla is a lashon rabim. V'navla sham sfasam, v'yered Hashem l'raseir. Yered is a lashon single v'samigdal. Kisham niglu elav is a lashon rabbi lakim. L'kelaina oisi is a lashon yachid b'yam tzirasi. Kimi goy gadol asher loy lakim krayvim lashon rabim elav. Kashem lakeinu b'chol kreinu elav lashon yachid right away. Umi ka'amchi yisrael goy echad ba'aretz asher halchu should underline the lashon rabim elakim. Lift this line should underline the word lie is a lashon yachid. Ad, it says in the pasuk, it's a lashon Aramis. Ad di charsavan. Charsavan is a throne, but it's a lashon Rabim. 2 thrones. Rami should set up. However, it says va'atik yaim in the ancient days. Yasiv should sit. Hanach lamli. So Taka, why do we need all these lashonos of lashon Rabim? So Mar answers, Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Yechanan, and Kadosh Baruch Hu Oised Davar in Cain Nimlach bim Pemalio Shalom Aleph. You have to understand again what this means on a deeper level. But he had the courts that he would talk to in Shemayim. Shenamar, like it says. Big Zeiras, Irim, Pisgama. I'm going to have the Shazam who took them out of, but Maimer Kadisha Shelasa. So Atenach Kulu, everything could be fine. Dichar Salvan Ramav, which means they set up a Lashon Rabbin, 2 thrones, Ramav. Ma'i Kalamema, how you going to answer? My answer is Echel Loiv, Echel David, the Tani, Echel Loiv, Echel David, Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva says, there's 2 thrones, one for David and one for Rabbi Shalom. Amalei Yaisi, Akiva! Ad Masai, Ata Isa Shechina Chol, what are you doing? Ela Echel Adin, Echel Tzedakah. So Shaila was the Rabbi Akiva Makabal and not. Kim Leminei, Lo Kim Leminei. Tashmat, that he was Makabal. The Tani, Echel Adin, Echel Tzedakah, Rabbi Akiva. It's not for you. You know where you belong. Klach, you should go till Tzinagoyim. That's where they need you. Like a stool kisei, leishav sharshum lahadam raglo to put his feet. Amar Rav Nachman, Hayman di yadal adur leminim karv idis lahadar v'loy. You shouldn't open your mouth. Loy lahadar. Amar hu mi'ino Rav idis ksiv. It says v'Moshe Amar. Regarding Moshe, it says Ale Lashem Ale Elai mivoila. What's it mean? It sounds like there's 2 rishus going on. Amalei says, you know this was Zeh Matartan Sheshmoy Kashem Rabbi. It's interesting, fascinating. Rabbi Shalom had someone Matartan. Don't know who he was. Chsiv Kishmi is Bekir Bain Tamartan. Yachi Nifachalei. We should also worship him. It sounds like he's something. He's a deputy Rabbi Shalom or something. Where it says Chsiv Al Tema Boy, you should not exchange him. Al Tirani Boy, shouldn't exchange him for me. Kain La Yisa Lifashechem Lomeli. What do you taka? He shouldn't be able to forgive your sins. We believe he can't. We didn't even accept this mamtarna as a shliach. It says on the end of the pasuk, pasuk of Dalid. I'll tell him we're not going to go up. We don't want you. Ksiv Hashem, him tells Daim Valmayra, Goffer Sofa Veish Meis Hashem. It should have said Eatim Availay. Amalei who Kaifis is interesting. This Kaifis pulls up from nowhere, and he says, Shafki, let him be. I'm going to answer him. I know Mahajana Lei Dechseva Yaim Lemech Lenoshav. Lemech does what? Eidos. What's it say in the pasuk? Eid Ada Vitzilo Shmaan Kaili Nishay Lemech. What do you mean? It should have said Nashai. My was Mevailay. Ela Mishtoi Krahachi Achanami Mishtoi Krahachi. Amalei Minolach Ha. Where do you hear this? He says, "Mepirka the Rameir Shemeli Damar Yechon Kavadash Rameir Mepirka Avadarish Tilsa Shmeitz." You say 3, the third Shmeitz Tilsa. Got the Tilsa Mitlei. V'Amar Yechon Gimel Ma'is Mishal Shalom Heiler Rameir. Rameir had 300 mashals about faxes, and each one we learned something Yiddishkeit from it. Ve'anu Ein Lanu El Shalosh. We're not going to go through it too much, but we're on the top of Lamed Testament Aleph. It says, "Avois Yochelu Boiser." The fathers are going to eat grapes. Vishine, the teeth. Vishina habanim tikahenu is going to be in the edge. Maznei tzedek, which means the righteous of the scales. Avnei tzedek and the stones. Tzedek mitzara tenechlotz vayaver rosh shetachtov. And Rashi gives a long mashal. He says that the fox was able, the wolf, the fox was able to fool the wolf by going into chatz. He says, go into the chatz of the Yidden on Erev Shabbos and help them with the meal, and they're going to feed you. So he went in. They started beating him up. He says, you know why they were beating up? Because your father went in and took all their meats. And that's what happened. He says, but come with me, I'm going to show you where there's food. He brings him to a well with the rope, with 2 buckets. He jumps in. They both jump in. He's able to go under because it's like a balance. And then he says he needs to get up. He says, look down. He saw the moon's reflection. He says, that's cheese. He says, you jump in. And then he jumped out, he left, and he ended up drowning in there. Ayin Sham, Barichas, all these Mashalim. We're not going to get too much for now. The Chazar Daf Yomi, what we're telling to, the Mashal talks about Barichas to bring out all these types of Mashalim, how we learn to Yiddishkeit with this. Amalei Kaifer. Now we're going to go till the end of the parak. We're going to discuss this. Ready? Yesterday's daf. We're going to discuss many Maisim regarding the Kaifer to Gamliel. Amalei Kaifer Rav Gamliel. Elekechem Ganavu. He's a Ganav. Why? The Chsiv says regarding Adam Rishon, Vayapel Hashem Elekim. Tardema, he puts Adam Rishon asleep, ala Adam, vayishon. And then he did a surgery on him and he took a chaver. Amalei Barte, it's interesting. The daughter of the Kaifer gets up and says, I'm going to be able to answer it. Shafke, let it be, I'm going to be able to talk. Then Amalei, she tells the father, Tnuli duchus echos, go get me. No, I learned the daughter of the Kaifer. The daughter of the Kaifer. The daughter of the Kaifer. So it sounds like the daughter of the Kaifer. Shaf, Amalei, Tnuli duchus echos, go give me a dine. Why? Because Amalei, it sounds like also she spoke to her father. You see that he says, give me a shayfer that's able to do linkum nekama. Amalei lamalech, why do you need it? He says, listen Bo Aleinu. If you look at the Lashinus of Bo Aleinu, it sounds like not the daughter of Gamliel, it was the daughter of her. If you look through the back and forth of together. Let's continue. Listen Bo Aleinu alaylav not lumi mana kitn shokesef. Next thing you know, we had this beautiful, let's say, silver menorah, but we woke up with a gold menorah. V'nichalon kitn shozav. Amar Allah, so the Kaifa tells the daughter, such a Ganav I want. So she answers, took a piece of his body, but you know what he got back? He says, my daughter, this is what my problem was. Why was the Rebbeinu Shalom a Ganev? Puts him to sleep. Let him do it in front of him. To the bistra. Go give me a nice geschmack, raw piece of meat. So Aisli gives the Aisa Tusa Bechashi, she puts on the ashes and the grates. A Piska, she takes it out. And Amarle Echomai, now go eat it. He says, I can't eat it. I saw what you did. It was Ichi. Amarle Misli, Amarle Hav, Adam Marisha Nami, you have a Shekilas bad day. Mamish do open, imagine you do a surgery in front of him, it turns into Chava. Have him Isli. And therefore, that's where the bunch will put him to sleep. It doesn't say the Seif Maisa, if the Kaifer believed it, it stops, and we go into a brand new Maisa. Amalei Kaifer Lim Gamliel, another Maisa with the Kaifer the Gamliel. Elakachayu Maika Ovid Ve'echan Yosef. He says, I know where your God is. I know exactly where he's sitting. I know everything. So this Nagav Isnach Ram Gamliel fainted and he gives a sigh. He says, Amalei Mahai, why are you krechsin? Amalei says, I have a son, Ben Echad Yeshli V'Karchayam, Yeshli Gaguim Alav. I'm yearning from being at the Machzil and I want you to tell me where he is. Amri Miyad Darech. No, how could I know where he is? Amalei, the Ika Bahar Yadas. You don't even know the lands. The Ika B'Shemai, you think you know where the Rebbeinu Shalom Yadas? Amalei, another Ma'aseh Amalei Kavil Gamliel Ksiv. It says, Mayne Mispel Kachav. It says the Rebbeinu Shalom can count the stars. He says, what's the big deal? My Rebuse, I could also. I also am able to count the stars. So I see Chavushi. Chavushi is like a quince. It's a type of yellow like fruit. It looks like a pear. Shadina Barvila, she puts in the bucket a sieve and mixes it and it was spinning. V'kamadulu. So Amalei, now go count how many are in the bucket. Meninu. Amalei, slow down. Still it so I can see and then I'll be able to count. But now that it's spinning, it's too much. Amalei Kminu. Make it still. Amalei Rekin Nami Hachi Adra. Also in Shemaim, the stars, everything is moving. And you tell me you can't count it. Dikadami Hachi. Amalei Manali Kaichvik. Go to Echo. Count the stars. He says, I'm able to count the stars. I know how many there are. Amalei, slow down. Tell me how many teeth and molars you have in your mouth. So he starts putting his finger in his mouth, he starts counting. You can't even tell me how many teeth you have. You think you know the kachavim? Another ma'aser. The person who created mountains couldn't create a ruach. Shenamar says in the pasuk, Kihine Yaitzer. Yaitzer is lashon fashion, but also the create. It has a different lashon. Yaitzer harim uvayre creates the ruach. Elamati says Gabe Adam dechsev also says vayivra, and we find by Adam vayivra and vayitzar. How do you understand? We have the ears, the eyes, right? They're right near each other. He plans the eisen. Yaitzer has a different lashon. Yaitzer ayin alayabit. Amalei in. Yes, it's takatru. Amalei b'shas misa. How could that happen? If you tell me there's multiple craters in a person, b'shas misa kul and spaisu, then everyone has to agree that at the second for the person to die, and that doesn't make sense with too many rishuyas. Zakt another ma'aser. Amalei hum gusham. Gush is a shayla. Rashi says it's a mechashif. Lamim, and he says, I know that half of your body, mipagachli lo, your top is Hormuz. Hormuz went into Bavasra, beginning of a Meicher Sasrin over there, where you're jumping on the walls. Mipagachli tasai is da Hormuz. So you're created, you have Hormuz on the top and a Hormuz on the bottom. Amalei imkain hecheshavikli. How could a Hormuz lavur my bar? How is he willing to be the trash can? Now, when a person drinks or eats, you eat from the top, and a person goes to the Beis HaKisei from the bottom. He says, do you think a Hormuz is going to be nachas to be the Beis HaKisei? Not happening. Okay, another ma'aser. Amalei kesel or tamchum. Sala avikulam amachad. We should all become one nation. Amar inachanami, no problem. L'chai, I'm willing to. But now the mehilon, we already did milah. We can't do tshuva on that. We can't be back to an oral. Loi metzina mahavik. But you, atam milah, mahavik, you should do milah like that. You're still doing. You'll be like us. Amalei meima shabak amarta. Miu called the zachil mako. You embarrassed me. You taka right, but now that you embarrassed me, now I wasn't able to speak. You won me. You embarrassed me. Zok Rashi. You have to go into the pen full of animals. So shudula bever. I guess they put him with the lions. There was this man says, you know what's going on? It's not the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's not hungry. So you know what they did? They threw the min inside. And the lion ate him up. And he ate the min. Another ma'aser. We all know whenever there's a minion, shchinta shire. So he says, Kama shchinta ika. How do you understand that there's so many shchinas throughout the world? That doesn't make sense. Sounds like maybe there's a bunch of rishuyas. So kare l'shami. So Gamliel calls the shamish again, the shamish of his kaifer, not his own shamish. You're going to see this on the ma'aser. And machabe paska, you hit him on his neck. He says, how do you let the shemasha be base of the kaifer? How do you let the sun go into your master's house? I'm like, what do you want from me? Shemasha kula amanicha. It's throughout the whole world, the sun. I can't control it. On that he says, learn from this the mashal. Umasha mashal the chan me'alef alfi rubaisha mashe. The kamek kutcha brichu nicho lekula amli. The shchinte the kadosh baruch hu alachas kama kama. Amal another ma'isa humina lervo elekechem is a gachon. He's a letz. He says jokes. He's not a serious guy. Why? Who? The kamalei cheskel. It tells you cheskel. Shchava tzitcha smali. Shalani left. But then it says ksiv. Chavta tzitcha money. What's going on? Am I right or am I left? Why am I making me mashuga? So also tamida. Meanwhile, the Talmud asked Osram Gamliel a question. Oh, to Ravo a question. He says, "Amalei, my time is Shivasa. What shot we have Shvius? What shot the Shvita? Amalei hashta minilcha milsa. I'm going to answer you, my Talmud, regarding the Shemitah, and I'm going to answer this min, this heretic, this Shavu Tavai. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael Zaru Sheish. Plan for 6 to Shemitah Sheva. Leave it empty in the 7th year. Kedei Sheteidu Sha'ar Shali. The Hein Lo Yasukin. They didn't do it. The Lachatu V'Gol. And therefore, what? How are we connecting the dots? Get ready. If the Eilim rebels, Imach Zaru, he kills everybody. Harig is cool. Im Rachmanu, he leaves half. Harig Chatzin. Im Rachman Mole Rachamu. What does he do? Miyasak Doilim Shabam B'Yisurim. So too over here. This Maisa with Yecheskel, Avkach. The Rebbeinu Shalom is a Bnei Rachman. He gave Yisurim to who? To Yecheskel as the leader. Avkach HaKadosh Baruch Hu Miyasis Yecheskel. Kedei Lamarkav and Hashem Shal Yisrael. Like that, he answered both questions regarding the Shemitah and why Yecheskel was punished. He answered them in. Amalei, another Maisa Humina Ravo. Elekechem Kainu. Why? Chesiv came from very Balbatish. Says in the passage of Yichel Truma. Ki Kaver Moshe b'May Tavel. But we know he buried Moshe. It's Mefresh and Torah. How did he do tefillah? Dechsev ki ina Hashem be'eish yavai. He did it through fire. Umi salka t'vulusa b'nura. Could you do it through fire? Amalei adi rabba. We all know ikat t'vulusa b'nura. Dechsev echalash lo yava be'eish. Whatever you can do through fire. We know a person. We go to the mikvah because we can't get burned. Tavura b'mayim. Amalei another ma'isa humina leravina ksev mi kam chisro. Goya chabaretz. So what's the Ma'ira B'Sai? What's so unique about Klal Yisrael? Atunami arvasabadan. You're also considered with us. Dechsev kol hagoyim, which sounds like even Yisrael. Okay, negdoi. Amalei, and then he answered miditchu, which is who? Bilam was a nachar, and he was man. They were not part of you guys. Asidu alon dechsev, like it says, and we're on the final amud ubagoyim. Lo yischashu. Whenever it says goyim, it's not talking about Klal Yisrael. Ramalazer Rami. Rabbi Lezer had a steer in the psukim. Ksiv toiv Hashem lakol. The ksiv toiv Hashem lakayva. The people that wait, the hainu the tzaddikim. So on that we answer, Mashallah Adam Sheish Paradis. Kishu Mashka, Mashas Kulai. When you're giving not general attention, you water everything. But when Kishu Aida, when you're chayf and you're giving somebody individual attention, who's that go to? The tzaddikim. Eina Aida la toiv Shabbat. What are we saying? Lefika kol echad ve'echad v'chula. And then we said, Ba'avoid Rishayim Rina. When the Rishayim die, everyone's happy. Says in the pasuk, the Yaver Harina, the arena they were waiting for, B'machna. So what were they waiting for? They all knew this already 100 years early. Got this nevias. The Achov ben Amari, ben Achov Hamari Rina, ben Amri Rina. So tomorrow, is this really true that Rebbeinu Shalom is happy? Michad kusha brichu b'malasan sherishayim b'ksev b'tzais lefanai hacholotz. Talking about the army, it doesn't say Kitav, it says Kilayim Chaz. If I'm Rabbi Yehuda, name man lay never by Dazu Kitav. You know why? Another point we're bringing out. Talking about Mitzrayim, talking about the even Mamish coming up, Shalach, Ba'isa Shah, Bik Shemach, Shar, Islam, Shir, Lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Amalei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ma'aseh Yadei Tovim B'Yam. V'atem Oimrim Shira Lefanai. Amar Yisrael Chaninu Hu Ein Asas. Ein Echanami. The Rebbeinu Shalom is not happy. Aval L'cheira Mesis. It causes us, the Yidden, to rejoice. The Ekanam Dechsev Yasis. V'Leksev Yasais, which is Eim Shmamina. V'Hazoynois. Rachatzus. Now we're talking about when Achav died, it said Hazaynus, Zanis in the Lashon, a regular kipshuta means it's nos, the Isha Hazaynus. It was washed away, and it says that the dogs were licking Achav's blood. We all know we could play with the words hey and ches, we could change. So it means chizyaynus rachatzu, which means division. What was the vision? He says, he tells Achav, you are going to die, and I'll prove it to you. If you don't die, then the Rebbeinu Shalom never spoke to me. But I have an avias that you're going to die. The attacker brought him the dam of Achav from all these different places. Rav Amar, no. Zaynes mamish. What? Why? Achiv ish mitzayne haya. He was a person that he didn't have a time for his wife. Va'asala Yizevel, I guess it was his wife, Shtei Tzuri Zaynis, B'Makaftin, Tiganim and Tais, Kadesh Yira, Islam, Yischamim. Okay, says in the Pasuk, the Ish Mashach Bekeshes, Litumai. How did Achav die? Achav died, Litumai, from a arrow, but it was Litumai. Tumai can mean innocent. Vayaka. And then it killed him. That the person didn't even try killing him. It was sheer luck that it hit him and he died. Rav Amar Tamim Shteichiz Yainis Achash Mechiyo Achash Elio, like we just said. Same in Karav V'Zach Abadam Kseva says in the pasuk Vayikra Achav El Avadyo Shel Abayis V'Avadyo Hayir Hashemai. What sheikhs were mentioned? Avadyo had Yir Hashem, Yir Shemayim, and Achav, his house is going to get destroyed. What was going on? My Kama Kram Yitzchak Amalei B'Yakov. We find by Yaakov. This is talking about Lavan. He says Nechashti. I was able to have my all these magics, whatever was happening. Hashem is based Hamitzri. Why Biglal Yosef? However, Beisadu Gavra regarding Achov, Loihaver Mivrich. He's not going to have good children. He's not going to have everything. Shema Loyora Lekemata. So maybe he's saying, you know what? You're the problem. Avadyo is the problem. He doesn't hear Shemaim, and that came a Basko Yotza Basko Vamra. Vavadyo Hayoris Hashem Ha'id Avabesa. What can we do? Beisu Shachov Einam Mizum LeBracha. He's never going to have, even his future generations are never going to be tzaddikim, and his house was destroyed. Reb Abba Gadol Shenemar. Why do you Avram? We find like Simait, Bavadyo Ksiv We're going to finish the parak with this concept of Ma'it. Even though he was a ger, Rashi brings out the punchline because a ger can't become an avi. So if he was a ger, how did he become an avi? He hit 100 Nevi'im when they were dying. Zevel was killing everybody. It's Nevi Hashem. And what did Avadyo do? And he hit 50 to do different locations. Why? Why not put all 100 in one cave? We learn from Yaakov, always split. If you have a chance of getting caught, try to split it up. Like that, if one location gets caught, at least you save the other half. Nishal Plata, it's much less of a risk. Was more balbata. Then we continue with Avadyo. Chazan Avadyo Kayam Hashem Elokim LaAdai. The Geimer. The Avadyo actually was doing to give the Nevi'is that Edom from Esau they're going to get destroyed. Ma'ishna Avadyo LaEdom. Amar Yitzchak Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Yavayad Avadyo. Hadar ben Shnei Rishoyim. He was living between Achav and Izevel v'Loilam Masayim. V'inavel Esav Rasha. He's going to give Nevi'is an Edom, which is Esav Rasha. Shadar ben Shnei Tzadikim. Yitzchak and Rivka v'Loilam Masayim. Amar Ephraim Akshot Tamid Sharmei Mishum Meir Avadyo Ger Adai Mihaya. He was mamish. He himself was ger from where? From his own nation that he's saying is going to get destroyed. From this varis, the axe is going to come out and destroy it. And this is talking about David HaMelech. David HaMelech came from who? From Mayav, from Rus. And he killed the people in a very cruel way. Whoever was not, he had a rope. And whoever passed the rope, he would kill them. I think he did 2 and then 1. He would kill a lot of. He was killing all of them, and he was killing his own nation. Kaviyachol. It rots from its own, from a gufa, and because of its mamish from the thickness, they're going to rot. Now regarding Misha, which was the Melech, it says, "Vayikach es b'noi habechar, ashiyim lach tachta v'yilei oila l'chayma." So what did he do? Misha took his son, and he mamish gave him a lot of carbon. Is it shalaf of the Zara or l'shem shemayim? Rav Shmuel, and then it says in the pasuk, Chaf. Vayikatzav gadol Yisrael. So in order to get context, you have to understand the Rebbeinu Shalom was very upset at Klal Yisrael. So you have to understand what pshat the Rebbeinu Shalom was upset. We could understand the end of the pasuk that Yikatzav gadol Yisrael, that behind the Klal Yisrael did hate, even though he brought the carbon. Rebbeinu Shalom knew that he wasn't doing. He was doing l'shem shemayim. He knew he wasn't doing it for a problem. However, what because he sinned? Why suddenly Rebbeinu Shalom is remembering the Averis of Klal Yisrael? My answer is because he has a steer in the psukim. That around them, you did not do. There is no light. What's going on? He didn't do it. So that we're saying, the Hainu, for example, they bring that Eglon, was the Melech and Mayad. Whenever they brought the Hashem to the Rebbeinu Shalom, he gave cover, he would get up. Like it says in the Pasuk, Vayikam Alakisei. Kimakum Kolim Shebahem, Misha Melech Mayad, when he gave his son for the Zara. And then Rebbeinu Shalom remembered Klal Yisrael all the Chatoim shebehem asisa. And then it says in the pasuk, "V'yisum all of the Yeshuv la'aretz." They went back to the land. Amar Chanina bar Papa ba'isa shal yardu rishein sheYisrael l'madrega tachtoina, because it doesn't say artzam, rather la'aretz, to the deep and the depths of the lands, because they were doing so many chatoim. And this we're going to finish. V'nahara yafad ma'od. We learned this recently regarding David HaMelech. When David got old, he was very cold. He ended up with Avishag. She was very beautiful, and she warmed him up. Amar Chanina bar Papa adayin lo higia lechetze yaifi shel Sarah dechsev ad ma'od. We're using ma'od till ma'od. If it loy ma'od bechlal. However, Sarah, we all know it says yafi ma'od. And the reason why we're bringing this to Avishag bechlal, because we mentioned earlier regarding Avidyo ma'od. Therefore, we continue with the concept of ma'od. Hadron alach echad dinim and ma'odos hadron alach.